Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Michael Kameron. He's the author of High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters. We're going to talk about his alien abduction experiences, pretty much from what I understand from his childhood and on till now. And all the paranormal occurrences and weirdness, high strangeness as he calls it, that happen around him, which many of the abductees I've had on this show where I've got to know over the years, some of them don't talk about it, but they have a lot of psychokinetic, paranormal, shadow people, weird experiences besides the alien abduction experience. Psychic experiences, all kinds of stuff. A lot of them do get into it, some don't. But it is very common, and I can't wait to hear his experiences tonight. And if you've had experiences, call into the show later. Join this conversation and share. That's why we bring people on like Michael, is to compare notes and understand what is happening to all those people out there that have had alien abduction experiences. And he's also a MILAB alien abduction experience. And if you don't know what that is, we'll get into that tonight. And it is the scariest, in my opinion, of the alien abduction experiences for sure. We've got a lot of weird to get to, of course, in the World Wide Web of weird and fake weird like Peru mummies. Yeah, they're back at 5 years later, still talking about that, right? Got a lot of weird to get to, like I said. So let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Michael Kameron, joining us all the way over in the UK. Very early time, very appreciative when guests come on for that. Hopefully he wakes up. I was always worried about like guests over there. I would have trouble waking up at 4 in the morning to get on a show and keep my brain working, so I'm always appreciative of them. But he'll be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird. Joining me, as always, tonight is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing good, thank you.
Glad to have you on, and I did not get to watch Weird Wednesday this Wednesday. It's school year again. But I'm sure you guys did some talking about the Peruvian mummies a little bit. We'll get into that tonight. And not a mummy, but still with us, St. Augustine, Florida, Rob Autry himself. He might go as a mummy for Halloween. I don't know. If he does, it'll be really scary. A lot scarier than those things. How you doing tonight, Rob? You're muted. I don't hear you, Rob. Oh, you.
I'm just messing with you, man.
Oh, jeez. Come on, man. I don't need that. All right. Like I said, we got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, of course, I'm just going to get it out of the way. I started getting messages from people and people I work with. Have you seen the Mexico mummies? And I even got a comment on the episode from 5 years ago. It's been 5 years. We had Barry Fitzgerald and Steve Mera, two investigators who went down, not to Mexico, where these mummies were found, Peru, and investigated these things. And I think laid it out pretty clear they're fake. Hami Musan is still peddling this. For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. We stream out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you want to listen, I will narrate as best as possible, which doesn't sound good after that. All right, let me. I've griped about Hami Musan for how long, and I don't like to, bring drama, or I don't know him personally. He might be a real nice guy, but how many more hoaxes? And this one's 5 years old. Do we have to keep living with this one? Unexplained Mysteries has a shorter article on this. A few days ago, Musan, a controversial figure even in the UFO community, presented what he claimed to be two alien bodies at a formal congressional hearing in Mexico City. Supposedly buried between Peruvian cities of Palpa and Nazca in 2017, the two bodies reportedly contained unknown DNA and were, at Musan put it, not from Earth. You remember the unknown DNA? Remember, if you go back to my episode from 5 years ago with Steve Mera and Barry Fitzgerald, two people are very serious researchers. And I know Barry was on Ghost Hunters International, but he's done a lot of other stuff besides that. He's a very serious researcher. Steve Mera, again, another very serious researcher, went all the way down to Peru, investigated these things. They did DNA analysis, and at first they thought, they had something. But then they discovered it's because a lot of these are literally corpse mutilations. They have mutilated mummies already, put body parts together with other animals too. So when the DNA comes back inconclusive, it's because it's contaminated by a lot. And these things aren't even like anatomically right. Look at its shoulders there. How does those shoulders work? I'm just saying none of this. It is widely proven that these are fake.
I can't say what a real one would actually look like, though. But
go ahead and show the other slide. Go ahead and show I got other. This article like photo too. That's Hami Musan. Okay, so it's fake. Let's eat. Who wants the ribs, right? Yeah. This isn't the only thing he's peddled is the Peruvian mummies. Now they're calling them Mexico mummies. I'm like, they're not from Mexico. And that's what really sucks about this. And Barry Fitzgerald and Steve Mera really hit home on this on that interview 5 years ago, is the Peruvian people are getting so screwed over because so much of their historical anthropological artifacts have been stolen from them, and they're sold on black markets. They were selling these mummies for like $1.2 million, and they're literally were artifacts that were manipulated and repurposed to make look like aliens, so they could sell them for a bunch of money. And the Gaia Network, I know I have people I've had on the show I'm friends with on Facebook that are part of the Gaia Network, but they push this baloney and are still pushing this baloney. And they want their $30 a month subscription or whatever it costs, I guess. I don't know, but you don't look very good.
It does drop credibility.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, let's move on. Enough time wasted on that. Maybe we've spent way too much time on this one too. Saw this pop up in Daily Mail. Las Vegas family who claimed two 10-foot gray aliens, remember started as 8 feet, landed in their backyard, break cover as they doubled down on their story and produced drawings of what they saw. They did an Inside Edition special. They've come out, and they're still sticking to their story. And I'm not going to read everything. We've covered this. I know Doug Papa covered this really closely because he's from the area, and he's a journalist and a former law enforcement, and he's been done with it. Because the kid kept changing his stories. I don't know what to make of this one still. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. And you see the drawing there, the alien. Maybe the kid's just not a great artist. I don't know. But remember that he's still saying he saw gnashing teeth in one of them. And
again,
right
before the NASA disclosure.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. That's the next one. all this alien stuff
they're putting out right before all that.
Yeah, these guys, this story's been out there for a while. And now they're coming out on Inside Edition. How much did Inside Edition pay them? I don't know. I don't know if these people are faking it. I honestly don't. The whole thing is so odd. The whole story is so odd. The way the cops responded to it, the way, Homeland Security putting an actual camera in there. on their backyard is completely strange and odd. It's one of these cases I really don't know what to make of.
And now it's got antennas too. One of them has antennas.
Yeah, I mean, the video we saw, is that real or not? I don't know. I mean, was it manipulated? That's why Doug Papa wouldn't look at it, because he said they only give me a 15-second video or 20, 30-second. You didn't get a very long video. And he saw nothing like that in it.
They may have truly seen something, but what they saw, was it real or not?
Right, that too. Project Bluebeam, all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Who knows,
Well, moving on. Not really. Everybody's, oh yeah, we were all just waiting for NASA's to release their 33-page report on the year-long study into UAPs. Following uninformed NASA's first ever public meeting on the topic of UFOs back in June, the report, which was penned by an independent team of scientists and researchers, has finally been released. And to make it short, they just want more money to study these things. We don't know what they are, and give us more money, we can help you figure that out. It's pretty much what sums up what they want. Yeah. More science. Yeah, this is AP. NASA says more science and less stigma are needed to understand UFOs, and more money. Give us more money. Hey, while we have people out there still questioning if we went to the moon or if our even space program is real right now. I don't know.
If they continue the funding, they'll keep looking.
Yeah.
I mean, they at least they're somewhat acknowledging there are anomalous events and things, but that's about it. We just don't know what they are. Give us more money. We'll look into it.
Yeah, I listened to the first 5 minutes.
But you know what? I'd rather give them more money. I'd rather give them more money if they're faking space launches or not. I'd rather give them more money than give it to the military industrial complex that wants, weapons funding for aliens they really could never win or fight a battle with. So, okay. Give it to NASA. Let them fake explore. I do believe I'm on the air on the moon landing. I'm gonna get into that. It's too long of a story. All right, let's move on. While we're arguing about that, we're still arguing about how old the universe is. New theory suggests that the universe is twice as old as we think. Early universe observations by the James Webb Space Telescope cannot be explained by current cosmological models. These models estimate the universe to be 13.8 billion years in age based on the Big Bang expanding universe concept. The research proposes a model that determines the universe's age to be 26.7 billion years, which accounts for the JWST's impossible early galaxy observations. Impossible early galaxies refer to the fact that some galaxies dating to the cosmic dawn 500, 800 million years after the Big Bang have disks and bulges similar to those that which have passed through a long period of evolution. And this is a lot longer article I'm not going to get into before I lose my voice on it. But, I mean, does anybody really believe they have any... They could be completely out of the ballpark? It's 13 billion years old. It's 26 billion years old. And who knows? It could be like 500 billion years old. Or a trillion. Or unimaginable. And would we really know?
We will never know.
Far little speck of sand in the galaxy peering out with our lenses are going to really figure this out.
We just keep getting to see a little bit further, a little bit further.
How about we just say the galaxy and the universe is probably really, really, really beyond even concept old. But you keep trying to figure out how old it is and argue over it when you can't prove it. Maybe they can. Who knows? Science. All right. Where am I? Ooh, this one. This is creepy. I'm going to read the Coast to Coast article because this one's a bit glitchy. The original one from... Thieger, supernatural near drowning ordeal. Ghost tells Thai woman to commit suicide. A woman in Thailand, and this is Tim Binnell covering it from Coast to Coast. A woman in Thailand nearly perished after she jumped off from a bridge into a canal upon being rescued, claimed that a ghost had actually compelled her to make the perilous leap. The bizarre incident occurred in the city of Bangkok on Tuesday morning when several astounded bystanders spotted the unnamed resident flailing around in the waters of the Sanam Chai Canal. Fortunately, they managed to pull the woman to safety, and when her family later asked how she wound up in such a predicament, she offered a truly unsettling explanation for what had unfolded earlier in that day. According to the woman, while riding her bike near a bridge which crosses the canal, she noticed a man who was dressed all in white and beckoning her to come over. However, when she got close to the mysterious stranger, she suddenly began to feel faint and heard him say, "I want you to die. I want you to die." Her memory of the eerie event ends there, as she subsequently woke up in the hospital with no idea why she was in the facility. The woman insisted she had no desire to take her own life by jumping from the bridge, and theorized that the unnerving man was a spirit who had compelled her to do so. Amazingly, the presence of the suspected ghost was seemingly confirmed by another individual who happened to be near the scene a few hours before the woman jumped from the bridge. Having heard her chilling story, Oman Tapatantong, if I should probably butcher that, revealed that she and her mother were driving past the same spot earlier that day when she noticed a peculiar stranger dressed in the same manner described by the woman. When they turned around to get a better look at the curious man, he was nowhere to be found, leading the secondary witness to also conclude that the stranger was some kind of sinister spirit, possibly connected to the previous tragic incident that had occurred at that bridge. She has a witness, saw the same thing, and she ends up in the water. I mean, there's so much ancient legends and mythology about spirits that try to drag you into the water and drown you. That's like my worst thing. You know, drowning and then put ghost on it to do it to you. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I haven't read this one yet, and I was waiting for you to read it, so it's my first time hearing it. And
I mean, she says she doesn't even remember. She doesn't remember anything until she woke up in the hospital. Like, so she doesn't even remember being in the water flailing. You know, like. Did it possess her? Did he push her in, and then everything's lost to her memory too because it was such a scary, traumatic event? Her brain has shut down the memory. That's very possible. You know, post-traumatic stress syndrome of this. You know, I mean, I couldn't imagine what she needs some hypnotic regression of it when she's ready. I'd be so interested to see what somebody got out of her on that.
Was the description put out first before the other person said they saw it with the same description? Like, could they have read that already and just said it because they wanted their name in print?
No, I mean, there were just people that came forward that said they saw this person on the bridge after this woman's story got out.
Okay.
So, I mean, are they lying? Who knows? But I'm sure this woman's relieved to have somebody else so she doesn't look crazy that saw this. Because a lot of people are like, yeah, you were just trying to kill yourself. But, you know, guys dressed in all white beckoning you to come towards them on a bridge. Let's just keep riding. Keep going. You know, that is a creepy story to me. I don't know. Like I said, there's so much mythology. I can't think of the names of the different kinds of creatures in that, but I wonder what the one is called in Thai. I know they got one.
Always so creepy.
Yeah. I wonder if that'd be interesting to compare the actual mythology. Or if there's any history there of that. All right, we've got to move on.
I'm curious about the history there.
All right, well, I watched a show. What was it? It's called. It's a show about a cruise ship in space that gets lost, and they talk a lot about like lithium, like the mine. All the lithium on Earth is like used up. And here we are making all these electric cars. Right now the auto market's being almost going to get forced into it. And you need a lot of lithium for all those batteries. You need a lot of lithium for our phones and all the batteries in those and everything else. We're going to want lithium. Problem is, if you've seen the mines where they get lithium, they're in third world countries and people are working for slave labor almost, and it's polluting the earth, the chemicals from the mining. It's awful.
They have children working in them.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Now we got one in America. We will. Lithium-based batteries are everywhere these days for mobile phones. Yeah, we know all this. They found a extinct volcano in Oregon. It is better to have a mine in an extinct volcano because you're going to get larger deposits, and it's less of a harm to the earth where they're at, you know. And I guess it's going to be great. Are we going to make sure we're going to have legal workers mining this, you know? Are we going to is our EPA not going to be, you know, totally look the other way? Are these companies that are going to mine the lithium in the U.S., are they going to be American owned?
Are you asking if they're going to be ethical?
Right. Are they going to be American owned? Are they going to be ethical? Is the EPA not going to be totally look the other way so they can make a bunch of money? And, you know, like I said, you know, are we going to sell out the whole assets to some foreign country because we're completely broke? Like uranium, like, I don't know, like we did we sold to Russia. Remember Russia was so bad at the time, we still sold them uranium mines, the Clintons. Billy Glenn did. I'm
Yeah,
just saying, are we going to actually have access to this
start
lithium?
getting ethical over this, especially this.
Hmm. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this. You know, because there is a big demand. Lithium's going to be like gold, but the problem is, I don't think it's the long-term solution to battery power. There's other things like graphene batteries, sodium batteries. There's other technology we're trying to develop that would be a lot better for the Earth, a lot more better resource. I hope we can get that developed, and we don't just like make this the new oil.
It's kind of convenient. They found that right when they did too. Sorry, Rod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like convenient timing. I like the idea of electric cars. I would never buy one until the price of the battery comes down.
Well, what is it? Well,
much.
look at it. You know, Todd was sharing this. The cheapest Chevy was a Chevy Volt.
Yep.
So that person showed their how long did they have the car? Do you guys remember? A year?
They haven't been around that long.
I mean, they didn't have this car. Yeah, well, it was like a couple years, a year old, whatever, and something. What, the battery died in it? Was that it? The charging system or something?
Yeah.
And it was $27,000 repair.
That's a bunch of bull.
And we shouldn't be forced to have to get them either. It should be a choice if you want to have one.
And where are they going to get their energy from? From the solar and wind, right? Yeah, no, we're going to just
handle it.
Yeah, no.
The average person has to finance a car. So then, if your battery goes out, then what do you got?
You will own nothing and be happy.
Exactly.
You'll own nothing and be happy because you won't be able to afford an electric car, and that's what they want.
Yep.
They're already pushing the audio industry into that right now. Not just electric cars, but to have limited cars. They want limited cars, make the price go up, and you can't own a car.
It helps with the 15-minute smart cities too.
Yep. Then you have to be stuck where you're at, walk to your work, or commute, or transcommute, whatever, and then people have to move into those cities that are death traps because they work there and they can't drive there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my suggestion is lease an electric vehicle. Don't buy one.
My suggestion is let's look for real solutions.
Yeah.
Not ways to empower corporations and big brother government.
Yeah.
Let's speak about big brother government. Let's get on this last one. We've had guests on this topic on this show. I've argued with friends over the JFK assassination over the years, people that don't believe. They believe in the magic bullet theory. Well, I think now the magic bullet theory can be put to rest. Secret Service agent who was with JFK on the day of his assassination breaks silence with the claims that blows up the magic bullet theory and suggests there was more than one shooter. Because now we have more bullets than Oswald could have shot. They never interviewed this guy. What's his name? Paul Landis. He's 88 years old. Warren Commission never interviewed him. He found falling out of JFK's skull the extra bullet, and he put it on the what's his name that was with him, the governor, on his, or he put it on JFK's cot, but he thinks it flipped over to the governor's cot, whatever. They had him in the same ambulance, and then they picked it up and said, "Oh, this is the magic bullet that went all the way around through JFK and went through him." Nope. That theory would be now kaput. That means there has to be more than one shooter, which to me was always obvious.
Yeah, I mean
how many of the people involved in this have died that have to come out and say, "Yeah, we were part of it. We killed him." Yeah. You know, how long can the news media ignore this, and presidents can promise to release it and then get in and don't?
As long as they're paid to ignore it.
Yeah.
Right. Our government. I should say, when I say our government, there's plenty of good people in our government. I should say our intelligence agency, the CIA, which the fired Alan Dulles was controlled of, fired by Kennedy months before, killed a United States president. And then people are going to eventually have to come to terms with that. Our country is based on great values and things we can achieve and do, and idealism that could be great. But the problem is, we also have made mistakes, and creating the CIA was a horrendous mistake, especially the plannings division that goes out and overthrows world leaders with coups d'etats, assassinations. We are paying for our sins.
Oh, but Jason, that's just a conspiracy theory.
It is not a conspiracy theory. It's history. They don't teach you it in schools, and I've known this history for a long time, and I wish others would learn it.
We all have.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do know.
Move
But
along.
obviously, Biden doesn't. Go on to the second picture, please. Biden doesn't, and I'm not trying to be political, but I'm going to call it out. I hate President Biden. I'm not a fan of Trump either. But this one really pisses me off. RFK, has tried to get Secret Service protection. Yes, he has 120 days till the election, till they have to officially give it to him with the right perimeters. But traditionally, that's not how it's been done. Go do your research. You'll find out how many people are given Secret Service protection way longer out than that. And this guy, and maybe this guy was innocently mistaken, and he did show up to help in some way, or he got some bad information, but he showed up heavily armed, wearing I'm sorry, they haven't explained yet why he's wearing a marshal's badge when he's not a marshal. He said he was there for the medical, but he was wearing a marshal's badge. I don't know. Is he a marshal? I mean, we need more information. I mean, maybe this guy was just innocent and got caught up in this. He cooperated with the police. He wasn't completely insane. But they're calling him an anti-vaxxer now, and he was drawn there by Robert Kennedy, and he's a Trump supporter, and they're giving all that information. Whatever, I don't care. A guy like this, or anybody, has gotten that close to him. Luckily, his security stopped it. He has to pay, lots of money for that they're doing this, so he can't run. But, he's a Kennedy. I'm telling you, a Kennedy was already, how many Kennedys have to be killed,
Just for having that name,
his father was assassinated during the primaries, and this is why they came up with this Secret Service protection thing. Some people are saying if he runs as an independent, well, they've never given it to an independent. Well, if he's pulling strong enough, they better. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Do your research. Don't believe me. Go look out there yourselves. But this is one of the many reasons I don't trust the United States government. Our guest tonight, Michael Kameron, I don't know if he trusts the United States government or not, but being a MILAB, I bet he doesn't, is an alien abductee, and I cannot wait to hear his experiences tonight and have him share, but you can share later in the show. We'll open up the phone lines later for you to call in, and if you've had experiences with alien abductions or seen UFOs, or you want to ask questions of our guests later in the show, call in. Tonight's guest, Michael Kameron, author of High Strangeness, A Lifetime of Alien and Paranormal Encounters, when we come back from the short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters. Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Michael Kameron. Michael was born in London and raised with a strict Roman Catholic Irish family and community. He grew up in a home that had been plagued with poltergeist activity and other types of paranormal phenomenon. Michael describes himself as both being an alien abductee and a MILAB experiencer. Michael Kameron is a new British author, and his new book is High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters. And I've had my own experiences over the years. I'm not an alien abductee, I don't think, but I've had some maybe some abductee contact experiences, some weirdness. I've definitely had all the paranormal. I know other abductees I've had on here have had a lot of paranormal experiences. They have happened in their home, psychokinetic experiences, or you want to call them poltergeist activity. There's something that I've always said when I came up with the title of the show, Paranormal Soup, a way that these things seem to be connected by something in some way, and that so many experiencers of abduction also experience other realities, see other realities, have psychic abilities. There's so much more to this we need to know, and by doing that, Michael's written his book so we can compare his experiences to others and try to get answers. And I'm honored to have him here all the way from England tonight. Later in the show, you can call in, join the conversation, share your own experiences. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right, let's bring him on into the stream. How you doing tonight, Michael?
Hello there. How are you?
Doing good.
Hi,
Thank you for being on the show. Early morning time for you across the pond, and it's an honor to have you on. I want to get a copy of your book. I don't have a copy of it yet. It's on my list of books I want to get. But in a way, I can't spoil anything tonight either for people. But I do want to really get into your story and your experiences tonight that you've had. You kind of lead us how you want to begin this, how this all really started from you.
Well, as you said, I was born in London, raised in a strict Irish Catholic family and environment. But in my book, I focus primarily on the location, which is my childhood home, and the immediate environment, which was, I grew up in a school, so my dad was the caretaker of this school. And most of my experiences, from a young boy and a teenager, was in this particular house and in the school and the school grounds. So I focused this first book in that period of my life. Obviously, I will be writing a second book, a follow-up, and that will continue on into my teenage years in a different location. Because one of the things that I never understood at the time when I was a child was that this phenomena follows you. So I didn't realize at the time, I thought it wasn't only until the 1990s that I started to investigate what was happening to me. Obviously, when you're a child, you don't really question it as much, because I was raised in the 1970s in London. So, and in the environment I was in, there wasn't nothing there that could influence me or any of my experiences. For most part, in growing up in an Irish community, you're basically at the church all the time. I grew up around priests and nuns, and it was pretty much either at school or in the church. So there was nothing outside of that. I think I described myself as an alien abductee from infancy, a MILAB military abductee, and experiencer. But I got three brothers, Francis, Kevin, and Sean. Sean's 2 years older than me, and I talk about them in my book. And some of the experiences I had with Sean. But growing up in this house, it experienced. What I say to people is that when I was born, my grandmother on my mother's side, she was leaving, and I say, she was leaving to go back into the spirit world, and I was being born at the same time, but I was returning, so we might have seen each other on the way out and the way in. But when I was a baby, I was an unexpected child. I was in hospital a long time, born premature, but as soon as I come back into the house as a baby, my parents told me later on that they had seen, orbs. They didn't describe them as orbs. They called balls of light that used to be flying around my cot. Flying around my cot, and entities were seen looking down at me in the cot.
Your parents told you this?
Yeah, much later on in life.
It seems like that's a clue to me that your parents were somewhat open to it. A little bit, just to remember that. A lot of people write those experiences off that are closed to the idea. They won't ever talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do know my dad had experiences in the paranormal. I believe my mum was an abductee as well.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, later on, my dad had served in the Royal Air Force, and my mum had actually built Lancaster bombers during World War II. In the munitions factories. So she built the machine guns and loaded, built bombs. So but when I come back, when I come from the hospital into the house, I was told that lots of unusual activity began to happen then, which would be best described as poltergeist activity. So there was a lot of cold spots in the house where previously there wasn't. And I, knowing what I know now, I believe that they could have been portals where,
the cold spots?
Where entities come and go. There was a lot of disembodied voices that used to speak to my mum when she was alone in the house, call her name. She used to feel someone or something watching her all the time.
Yeah.
And so, also in the house where I grew up, the wall, the walls, and they were solid. So if you were to bang them with your hand, at best you'll get a thud, a sound of a thud, But during the night time when my parents went to bed, it was almost every night there was a sound of banging on the walls, and it was almost like you were listening to stereos surround. It was echoing all the time. And when they went to investigate, there was obviously nothing there. And some of the things that happened with Francis was there was one instance where he was lying in bed, and there was a big heavy oak wardrobe, and that was pushed on top of him on the bed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he wasn't injured, but he was in shock.
Oh. Yeah.
And another time, Kevin was coming up the stairs, he remembers, and he was pushed. Something touched him, pushed him down the stairs.
This is dangerous stuff.
Yeah, he went tumbling down the stairs. He
Oh my
he
God.
banged his head on the wall, but he wasn't injured.
How old was he?
I would say at the time, probably 15, 16.
And how old was your brother when he had the wardrobe thrown on top of him?
Probably just like 2 years older.
Wow.
And we had, there was objects moving around, or they go missing and then return in a different place. I remember that though. That part of it used to go on a lot longer, actually.
Can I ask you really quick, because before I lose this question, how old was your mom when she had you? She said you were unexpected.
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, a lot of my family life has been kept secret from me. My parents were very secretive, but I think that was to do with the times. During the 1970s, a lot of people didn't talk about things.
I wondered that because you said you were a kid of the 70s and your mom worked in the World War II manufacturing. She had been pretty young. I'm like trying to guess the age, but when you say unexpected, reason I asked that, and I'm gonna let you continue the story, but sometimes as an investigator, I myself have to ask questions that give me an idea of the picture, what I think is going on. The paranormal activity did not really start until you arrived as an infant, is what you're saying, right?
That's what that's what my parents basically said, yeah.
And if your mom was older and you were unexpected, you weren't the youngest though?
I am the youngest, but
you are the youngest. You were the last child born?
Yeah, but she said that she didn't realize she was carrying me.
Right. That's what I find very abductee-ish for her and you. Because people have these unexpected child, or somebody born. It's usually the last child.
Sure.
And an older age when they didn't expect to is a common theme.
Yeah. So that's all I know about that. But she didn't realize she was pregnant with me. I'm not sure if you can or not. Because she had 3 children. My brothers before me. You'd think that she would know, wouldn't she? If she was carrying me.
She should be pretty experienced by then. Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently I was just there then. So what happened was with that, it took a long while for them to speak to anyone outside of the house, because we lived, we were surrounded by priests, and my dad was, he was very friendly with the priests and stuff. And, but I think they decided to reach outside to the church, because the poltergeist activity then was becoming a little bit more what could be described as dangerous.
Aggressive for sure, yeah.
So so they had a priest come, and he basically walked through the house, blessed it, and to some degree it stopped this particular activity. Did
you do like a blessing of the house, or?
Yeah, as far as I know, they blessed it. They walked through each room and blessed it. Gotcha. And so, the cold spots vanished, and it gradually faded away. But that wasn't the end of it then.
Of course,
because then
wouldn't be here if it was.
Because then at the around the age of 4 years old, I started to have I started to see things. I had experiences, what we would now call in classical ufology Nordics, experiences.
So the long blonde hair, tall,
yeah,
white
yeah.
skin, blue eyes.
Yeah, exactly. So, at the time, I didn't realize what these were.
Yeah.
But I do remember, there was one instance where I describe in the book where I go up into my bedroom and, there was a male and a female, what would be looking Nordics, waiting for me there. And as I closed the door, I started to have a discussion with these two particular beings, but in my book, as I explain, I don't remember what was said. I'm actually more of a visual person,
Yeah,
I remember
get it.
things.
You're 4 years old too, right?
Yeah, but I remember, even now, I remember, if I see something, I remember it, but if someone's speaking to me, it takes me much longer to remember things like that. It's just the way my brain is, I guess. But
you're visual.
Yeah, sure. So I was up here and I was talking to these two beings, and as I describe in the book, I hear my mum coming up the stairs, and I explain in the book that I can hear her standing outside the door trying to listen to who I'm speaking to, because I can hear the weight of her feet shifting from one side on the floorboards. So obviously she's trying to listen. She knows there's no one in the room with me, or so she thinks. But
right.
So then she comes into the room and I'm talking to them, and I turn my head away from them to speak to her, and she's basically looking at me, with a odd look on her face and asking me then, who are you talking to? And I just, say to her, my friends. And then I look away from her back to where they are, and obviously they're not there.
Right.
And then, I'm a little bit confused to where they've gone. So, obviously the windows are closed behind me, but you would see if they were, climbing through them.
Right.
And so, she come over to me and she spoke to me and just said, well, I'm sure they'll be back.
Oh.
And, because she was obviously thinking they were invisible friends.
Yeah, imaginary friends, or maybe she did think they were ghosts. Because you guys are living in. You were living in a school, right? It's probably pretty old.
Well, this property was created. It was the foundation for it was basically in the 1970. There was an older school. There was an older building school that my dad was also the caretaker of before this was built.
Gotcha.
And this was the area of. I grew up in the area of where the infamous Jack the Ripper, actually killed people. It was in that area where I was. But
Whitechapel.
Yeah, I was born in Whitechapel Hospital, London Hospital.
Yeah.
Which is so it's that area has got a real history. So anyway, so she then ventured down the stairs to return to what she was doing, and they didn't return. But what I didn't tell my parents is that these were adults. She's obviously thinking that they're children, but these were adults. And I remember sometimes we used to play follow the leader and games, and they used to be talking to me about things, but again, not moving their mouth. No, not moving their mouth, but just you could feel it in your head. Really, is what I can say to you. But it wasn't the last time I would see these. I would see them quite a lot. There was one time as well when I was downstairs. I was playing with my toys, which were during them times Matchbox toy cars. My mum was in the kitchen at the time preparing lunch. My dad was in the school working, and whilst I was playing with the toy cars, I had an overwhelming feeling that I must go upstairs and meet somebody. And it was almost like I would say a command So, I gave way to this and I followed that instruction and I went upstairs. And when I reached the room, there was nobody there, but I had a feeling that I shouldn't go. Someone would be coming. And so I didn't have to wait long before I see one of these beings. It was actually the male of the two that I saw in the room before.
Yeah.
And he was a lot taller than the adults around me. Again, a classical Nordic type.
Yeah.
I was looking up at him, I remember, and he was looking down at me and smiling. But it seemed as though at the time that he was communicating something to me. And as I, look back and talk about it in my book, it feels like he's not talking to me per se, but another aspect of me that knew him pretty well.
Yeah.
Again, but what I experienced then was, it felt like the immediate environment, the room, started to, vanish, and so it's almost like the Oz factor, what the British author and former director of Bufora said, where she coined the phrase the Oz factor, where all sound disappears, vanishes. It seemed at that time that, it felt like I'd had missing time.
Yeah.
Because of the experience. Because when I actually return to the present moment, it's almost a feeling like what you get when you're sleepwalking, and you suddenly become aware, that you're actually in a room, but you've been somewhere else. He'd gone. But what I can't figure is, as well, if they were friends or foe, because I remember many times encountering these type of beings at that age.
Yeah.
And I was always running, afraid. I was running away in terror from whatever had happened. And I remember this time running down the stairs, trying to get back to my mum to tell her something had happened. And when I did, she asked me what had happened, and I tried to explain to her. But she just told me, everything would be okay and just go back to play. And that's what I did. But then it into the background when I returned to playing with my cars. But it's just, throughout my experiences in this location, there were many times when I was in bed at night time as a teenager, where I'd have this overwhelming feeling to get up and to get dressed and to go outside into the school grounds, when there was no need to.
Right.
So, I think there could be something in that.
Did you though?
I did.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I did. I did all the time.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes I didn't really see anything. At best I used to see shooting stars. But one
At least
of the
that's what
things
you
is,
remember.
yeah, exactly. But one of the things that I used to do, though, I used to go to certain areas of the school grounds, and a lot of the time I used to be just looking up in the night sky, and just you comb in the sky, looking around, and then I used to return to my bed. But again, it's odd because it happened quite a lot to me as a teenager. Around the ages, especially around the ages of 15 and 16.
I'm curious about your earliest memories there, or when you were 4 years old and you were seeing them. At that point, you were talking to them, having a conversation. Later, the Matchbox thing, you're running from them. It's like somewhere in your 4-year-old brain, you learned, okay, these guys are not friendly.
Well, when people ask me this, it's simple. It's for me. I can only say honestly to you, it's 50-50. I'm not sure.
I get that.
Is it because is it possibly because I'm a child and I don't understand something, and that it could be the fear from that, but it could also be it's the fragmented memory there, because something did happen, but I don't remember what happened. So within that period of time, what happened to me? And again, this went on in my life for quite a long time. I used to see them in other parts of the house. They used to only appear to me, as far as I know, and sometimes they just used to appear and then disappear. That happened quite a lot. They used to smile at me and vanish. But it was eventually after that, that me and Sean, we had an experience together where we'd been outside. It being in the summer holidays, the school had been closed.
How old?
Again, 4 and 6. And we'd been outside just opposite, just adjacent to where the house is. There's like a grass, where there was a lot of grass, a grass hill. And we'd been playing football or soccer, kicking the ball around.
Yeah.
And my dad at that time had come back from the school, and he having a bite to eat with my mum in the kitchen. And it was Sean that suggested, why don't we go and explore the grounds? Why don't we go and wander off? So
Strongly suggested, like, get out of the house and play your kids. What parents did back in the day, before they had electronics to distract them.
Exactly.
Go outside and play.
Yeah. Go outside and play, yeah. And we started to, Sean picks up the ball and we went off. And in if you bring, have you got the photos there?
Yeah. Rob, they're in there. In the order you gave them to me, I numbered them. MK 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see there in the Dropbox I put.
1 and 2. It just gives you an idea, really, of that.
He's looking for him.
But we walked around the school past where the outside toilets were, heading in the direction of the school hall. And this is one of the areas that I was told to go to, basically, in the nighttime. That feeling of being led.
Was this nighttime that you guys are out there playing?
No, this was the daytime.
This is daytime. Daytime. But this is the same area that you were led to at night.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, one of the areas. And so, around there, that is on the top part where you see the railings. That's often where I would go at nighttime. In the nighttime, this is a spot where something happened to me and Sean. But when we come around here, where you can see the door open in the far ground, so me and Sean walked here. I mean, this is a modern picture, so it would have, it's been.
Yeah, we're talking 1970s, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but this is the only picture I could get at the time. But it just gives you an image. So Sean, where the circle is there, the yellow circle, Sean walked up onto. There was a steps there. He walked up onto the first platform, and I was just below on the left-hand side of the railings. I was kneeling down, looking at fire ants, red ants, and at some point whilst I was doing this, Sean called out to me. And he said to me, "What is that? What is it?" And then I looked around and I walked up towards him, and he was pointing up in the sky. And if you can see on picture 2, above the not that one.
I might have got him out of order then.
Yeah,
I must have got him out of order. What's it look like?
It's going to be of the school buildings, not that one. Let's see, where are you? Come up.
Is it of the buildings?
Not that. Let's see.
I mean, unless I missed it, but I thought I got all of them.
Anyway, but I can tell you though.
Go ahead.
So he was looking. When I looked in the direction of, his finger is where he's pointing, there was, in the sky, there was this shiny object. It's broad daylight. This is an area of London on a weekday that's extremely busy, with people working. And what it looked like is what we could now call a daylight disc, a classical silvery type disc with what looked like the sun reflecting off its metal, and it was just moving in the sky,
Yeah.
And it was getting closer and closer to where we were, and
go up, Rob. Go up a second. I think you're missing it there to the right, up top to the right. Down. Above the his set of pictures to the right. I think I got one more right there. Right next. Go right. You were right next to it. Down there. Try that one. Oh no, that's the same one. Okay,
It's
never
all right.
mind.
Anyway, but so we saw this disc, and it was getting closer to us. But again, at that moment, we went into basically what I can only describe as an altered state of consciousness. Again, the similar effects of the Oz factor, where when you're looking at this object, you're suddenly, it seems like you're moved. You're no longer there, or you're no longer present in that moment. And then I don't know how much time went past, but certainly, we would have had some type of missing time. But when I come out of it first, out of this altered state, again, it's like you're feeling disorientated. It's almost like you've been disturbed. You're frozen in time almost. And the object it was no longer in the sky, and Sean was still in this altered state. It's almost like a zombie state.
His eyes open
His eyes were open. He was just staring at the sky.
Okay.
And it was only when I basically called his name, Sean, that he sort of come out of it. And again, he was looking, frightened, confused, in the same way that I was, I guess. And it was, it was at that moment I took off. I just wanted to get away. I was afraid. Something, it was an unusual feeling. You just wanted to leave that area and get away quickly. But as we were running back to the house, we were constantly looking up at the sky to see if we could see this, whatever it was, this object. And we burst in through the front door, the back door, which led into the kitchen, only for my dad to scold us because we scared our mum, just rushing through the door suddenly, when they were having lunch. And they were asking us what was wrong. We were out of breath. They can see we were frightened, agitated. And it was then that Sean, described what we'd seen, what had happened. But, but his reaction was they both looked at each other. They didn't say anything and just told us to go out and go back to playing, but be close to the house where they could see us. It's an unusual reaction, really.
Yeah.
So sometimes it makes me wonder if they'd seen themselves at some point.
Yeah, I mean, your mom, if she was an abductee before, if it's generational, as a child, she might see. What it reminds me of, as I know you listened to the interview I did with Terry Lovelace.
Yeah, that was great interview.
He had a similar experience around the same age of seeing a silver disc in the sky and kind of the same feelings, and his parents, he got in trouble, because the neighborhood heard about what he saw. He was so loud about it. But I remember being 16 and seeing something, not a disc, but a large cylindrical, very large craft float over Michigan City with 4 other people. And we were all like 16 years old and not children, but we all were in a daze as we looked, just suddenly all felt it and looked up, and it was silent, no lights. We all were in a daze, and most of the people after it didn't remember it. It's like encountering these things, sometimes they have some kind of way to alter our state of mind if you're in their vicinity, or if they want to direct it at you.
Sure. I mean, yeah, you're right there. I mean, like I said, the area that I lived in, it was extremely busy as a working day, and in the outside of the grounds of the school, on each of the roads, there was like warehouses there was trades going on. And in actual fact, in the area that I lived in an area where there was one of the biggest police stations in London, where the cars were going up and down, with the lights and sirens blazing almost every day. But, what makes me wonder is why no one else, as far as I know, did they see it?
Have you heard of, I don't know if you, but I've heard of instances of certain people seeing a UFO while others around them don't see it. Like they could have a camouflage that it's kind of like They Live with Roddy Piper, where if you have the glasses, you can see the subliminal messages and the aliens and stuff. That some people have the ability to see these things beyond their whatever they're cloaking with.
Well, the thing is, what I was talking about, Jenny Randalls. I did mention this in my book. I just read it out to you from the Oz Factor. This is what she says. She says she observed that it seemed as if eyewitnesses were singled out and placed in a bubble. And this is the reason she used the term Oz factor, because these people were describing being taken out of this reality and transported mentally into another dimension where seemingly magical events happened, like the Oz, like in the land of Oz. But as she points out, these people were not,
physically taken.
They're not. Yeah, but what she points out, it's not their imagination.
No.
They are being transported.
Well,
or they are seeing things that other people can't see, even though there may be somebody standing next to you.
I think that's the. I've talked about this with Terry and some other abductees. Is that I think a lot of abductees have this question in their mind sometimes. It's like, was I physically taken, or did they just take my soul out of my body? For some of the instances of time displacement, or whether there was no lost time, but they had this whole out-of-body experience. Whitley Strieber, have had experiences like that.
Coming to that, you see, this is one of the biggest, issues that I have, because most of my abductions as I go forward, they're from outside of the body. So I'm somebody who can leave their body quite easily, and I have done as a child.
The reason I'm interested in, the reason I'm getting into this, the reason I'm interested in is personally, I had a camping trip where I might have had an abduction experience, and months later I had what is called a shadow person experience. And I was being attacked nightly by a shadow being that would rip me out of my body, take me on an astral journey, and show me things that were real, that were really happening. People like my band kicking me out of the band, having a conversation, a meeting behind my back, my girlfriend cheating on me, doing things to like torture me. This was, I don't know. I always felt this thing, people say, well, you're dealing with a demon, or I don't know. I always felt this thing was alien, the way it felt to me. And I have it's a longer story than that, why. But I find that the idea of an entity taking you out of your body and taking you to another realm very fascinating because of my own experiences.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, all of this takes place, if you felt it was an alien, it more than likely was. You got to go with what you feel at the time. And again, like yourself, I've had these experiences with these type of entities as well. And I think a lot of people that experience this type of phenomena, we generally seem to have waves of different entities that like to come in,
right,
and
right,
and pay attention to us. I feel that from my own experiences, and I'm not treading on anyone's feet, so to speak. It's just my own personal feelings. That's all. But and some of the things that I've learned outside of the body, speaking to other, what we would be termed ascended masters, I guess. And from what they tell me is that the greys, the commonly known greys that we know now as the greys, and demonic energies, that they're not the same. Some people say they're the same, that the demonics are the greys, that they're not. They're two different. They're two different entities.
Yeah.
They have two different agendas. They have two different agendas that seem to target human beings.
Yeah.
Whether you're a child or an adult. And I'm pretty sure they're aware of each other in these dimensional realms, but what it seems like a lot of us that have these type of experiences, whether it's the paranormal, whether it's, you're seeing a UFO or a UAP or cryptozoology, whatever now, because in the past we separated it all, but now we can see that it all fits together. So these type of entities seem to, pay attention to us. Maybe sometimes they're just watching to observe us. Other times they take a much more active role in what happens to us.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they look at the abduction phenomenon, they can see the concepts of generational abductions. Maybe they're interested in our DNA, but there's a spiritual level. There's a soul level to this. And I feel like you kind of hit upon that a little earlier. Do you believe there's a past life connection to alien abduction?
Well, you know what? Funny enough, I was going to touch upon this because there was something that you said in, if I can find it, I just write it down.
Well, the reason I asked this is because my experience when I was camping months before the shadow person experience, where I was with a friend who would have night terrors and other stuff. I don't know if he's an abductee. I didn't feel like I ever was an abductee until this point, where I had this very vivid dream where I was floated up out of my tent, and I was flying above the forest because I'm camping, and there's this bright light behind me, and I remember being taken into this ship, and there's somebody there. I can't see their face, and all I can think, only the main thought in my head is they found me.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to touch upon with you. Funny enough. So yeah, it was your Terry Lovelace episode 265, wasn't it? When you said that they found you.
Yeah.
You know, I found that interesting. You say that because you're certainly correct about that. Because the thing is,
there's a deep part of me. I want to say this real quick. There was that instance. It's like I was a higher self. Like I know more that I can't remember. Like in that moment, I knew who they were, and they knew who I was. I don't know any other way to say it than that.
I mean, the thing with the abduction programs, as I call them, the Greys are not interested in you as an adult. The child becomes the adult is the child. So the Greys, they take you as a child. They take you, they interested you as a baby, as an infant. As I say, when you're an abductee, you're as an infant, as a young boy or a girl,
right?
A teenager, a young man, in my case, mature adult, and certainly as you return, if you like, to spirit. So your abductions may stop, and there may be times when you don't have any, but I can assure you will have more. They come back for you. They return.
I had the thing is, it took what I would talk about. And I'm sure you heard me say this in that interview. Is that I didn't think about that whole experience for many years. I wrote it off. I didn't want to think about it. I guess I didn't look at it. I didn't think about it. I could think about my shadow person experience. It really deep. I couldn't not. It changed me, affected me. But I realized months after that, or months before that, when I had the camping trip. But I wouldn't look at that. I would not look at that. And all the things I've researched and known and been interested in, I don't understand how I could look away from it.
It's understandable you didn't want to look at it. It's a difficult thing to look at, especially when other people don't believe you, But when you're with the reincarnation side of it, so when we return here, when our spirit returns to another body, the Greys call these containers. So when we come back into the body and we return here as a baby, inside the energy field, the biochemical energy field, the etheric field, we have implants in those fields. Those implants remain there even you pass across and you've basically gone back to spirit. When you return here, the etheric implants are still in place. So when you come back here, they because of your the circuitry in your brain, they switch back on. When they switch back on, you're almost like a beacon of light. They come back and they find you, and that's how they take you again.
I got fascinated. I'm a big Art Bell fan, and many years ago, he had John Lear on, who proposed this containers theory, and that aliens had some part of our soul and reincarnation, and the moon was a big soul capacitor. And I have to ask, like I said, John Lear about that conversation with Art Bell, and he said, yeah, that really came from him and Whitley Strieber the night before, kind of just talking about all of Whitley's experiences and theorizing what's going on and what Whitley had seen, and maybe an idea of that he had been told that we were containers, and what did that mean? Do they have are they there? Do you go? The scariest question is, do you go to the light? Or if they're in control of it, that was the scary thing. I don't think they are, but I do think there is something to past life connection to this, something at the soul level, something spiritually involved when we get into other dimensions. Just from all, not just your experiences and Terry's and Whitley's, you hear this a lot from abduction experiences. There's something, a bigger picture.
Well, almost certainly, when you're outside of the body, you're outside of the body. You're in your immediate environment, like you say. If I went out the body now, I could be in this environment. I could go up, through the ceiling and out for the roof and travel around the sky or go wherever I need to be. But you do enter into the astral realms, which are the fourth. It's the fourth dimension basically, which is in a way, to some degree, a virtual reality environment where you can create with your mind. And the greys, you will find the greys there. The greys there a lot. The greys actually abduct from that environment when you're outside your body. I've been taken many times from these places, and without going into it, the military can do this as well with the MILAB programs. But when you start to go higher up into the higher realms, when you're say, for instance, into the fifth dimension casual plane, there are parts of these areas. There are areas in these type of realms where the greys and other beings like this can't touch you. They just can't touch you.
Are they? Are you opinion? Are the greys? They are like physical beings, though. Have they like found a way to infiltrate the astral realm, in a sense, or?
The greys are, they are physical, but they're also multidimensional. They can
definitely
easily,
multidimensional. Yeah,
they can easily enter those spaces easily. That's no problem for them. And but we can do that as well. It's not only open to them. We can do that, and we, everyone at night leaves their body. Everyone, but some people like myself and others like me, they are, they've learned how to do it automatically, but again, that doesn't make me special or them special. It just means we know how to do it. But every single person in this chat room can do that. It's natural to us. You just got to get away from the fear of it.
A lot of people might still not be familiar with the idea of what a MILAB is, and I want people to hear this tonight, because it is a whole other plethora of experiences when I have somebody that says they're a MILAB abductee. Usually negative, and it's hard to fathom for a lot of people that maybe our military or some private entity, humans, are working with aliens. But if you look back at like the original Travis Walton story, not the movie, but his actual story, he talked about people in uniforms. He talked about humans or Nordic almost looking people that interacted with him. Look at Terry Lovelace's encounter when he was aboard the ship and he saw people in these like, what did he describe them, like tannish uniforms or and there was like a hangar, but they were people. Other people, they wake up in sometimes in human places like gymnasiums or somewhere, lined up with other abductees. Sometimes they're very human. Anthony Sanchez, I think, had something kind of like that experience, if I remember right. I've heard so many of these different encounters when you start getting in the MILAB. What's your best description? What is a MILAB abductee?
Well, often there's two types of descriptions of them. There's the ones where abductees are actually re-abducted by the military, but not the what you understand as traditional military,
right?
But those that people see, these are not that military. These are like a private enterprise that acts, beyond the government.
You're not seeing military U.S. flag soldiers. You're seeing private military uniforms, no identification usually.
Yeah, basically that. But sometimes the abductees are taken, and a lot of the time they go into what are called DUMBs, deep underground military bases, to be interrogated about the aliens that have taken them. Probably for intelligence reasons, to gain an upper hand perhaps over them, or to to steal some of their technology perhaps.
Or to see, we had Nick Redfern on here in one of his people he interviewed was Milab, who said that he was told by these people in the military uniforms that they had to round all these people up because they are sleeper cells. All these people could be turned on at one moment and be a threat.
Yeah, it's possible, but I think.
But I'm not saying that it's possible. I'm saying this is definitely a military thought. Like if you knew your populace are being abducted and being microchipped by some alien force, and that they don't have memories of it, and that they can control them, get them to walk out and be abducted, or have these abilities over a military mind would think, oh, this is like they could turn these people into a little sleeper cell, they could be spying on us with people and we don't even know it, that's where the military mind would go.
Well, this thing with, what's happening and, what has been happening with disclosure and stuff like that, it's the trouble with that is disclosure is one thing, but what people got to understand is it goes much, much, much deeper than this and more sinister than this. And there's a lot of projects and programs that have been run by the United States and the British and many other countries, in the black ops communities, and they're not going to disclose what they get up to because it will shock the public to the core. It will.
Yeah.
Not only the fact that they're aware of abductions take place.
You notice how they don't talk about abductions in any of this disclosure stuff.
No, but the governments or the military, they assist in some of these abductions. Then you've got the MILAB programs, you've got the TI communities, the targeted individual community. It goes on and on and on and on. And when you look at it, it's just about abuse and control.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We were talking about that in my World Wide Web of Weird. I'm not a fan of our CIA, but like I said, it goes a lot deeper than the CIA. It goes to organizations, institutions. I'm a big fan of the TV miniseries by Steven Spielberg called Taken, just because it points to a few scenarios. I don't think it's telling you the history or anything like that, but it points to a few scenarios I think are telling a little bit of the truth in that the people that are keeping control of the secret, one, they keep it within their family. The general that's in charge of it passes it down to his son, who passes it down to his daughter. So and they're not even recognized by the U.S. government anymore. They've been forgotten about, like they've gone so deep. And they know about abductees, and they figure out how to track the same signal the aliens use to track the abductees in it, and they're picking up the abductees and studying them. So I thought that was Steven Spielberg's little way of looking at maybe a little bit of what's going on.
Well, it's believed, isn't it, that Steven Spielberg was, the information was shared to him, and then he recreated it through these type of movies.
Yeah.
It's I think that goes on quite a lot within the film industry. They're open to a few of the secrets, and then they recreate it on on screen for people to see. People then see it and maybe look at it, it's sci-fi, but in actual fact, a lot of it's based on reality.
So, but when they hear somebody tell their story, oh, that's just like that movie. You're just talking about the movie you saw.
But it's like a lot of the technology that we see in the movies, we already have that. Anyone in the MILAB communities will tell you we've got all this. It's nothing new. It's just it's not shared with the public.
I'm not a fan of Stephen Greer, really, but he had that panel recently.
I'm not either. No, I'm not.
Yeah, what I did find interesting though is he had a panel of people he called whistleblowers, and one of the people in that group, I can't remember his name, claimed when he was in the military that they were confronted by a private military organization that held their guns on them, and they had a ship, and they were loading children into the ship, that they were doing human trafficking. Again, it's Stephen Greer, so take that with a grain of salt, just like you take anything from Hami Musan. But I found that really interesting, if it would be true, that we would be using, that these private entities would be using these, if they had this kind of technology, to be doing things in third world countries where people can't get their voices out to hear about them taking children or doing weird things like this with their technology.
But this is what we're talking about with the Disclosure Project. Imagine they were to reveal that these type of
right.
What would the public think? The governments would be finished. They're not going to disclose it. I mean, it's also a big money-making enterprise as well.
That's the problem. Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of private organizations, corporations involved. It's not just the military. There's lots of other
Lockheed, Raytheon.
Sure.
You
But there's a lot of these going on as well. They all work together to achieve the common goal. I mean, you can imagine, you get every single person on the planet that has these experiences, and you line them all up so that, they can't all be wrong. They're all telling similar stories.
Yeah.
They're all from different parts of the world, I could be talking to someone in the States. They've had the same experiences, similar experiences to me. We don't know each other, but, so, you got to look at that as well. But, with them in my life, it was only later on that as an adult that I become aware that I was actually a MILAB involved in the military programs. I was talking to a guy the other day that I met who is American, and he is a MILAB. And, as I was saying to him, when you're outside of the body, so to speak, as a military operative on the astral planes, MILABs act as spies as well. We can spy for the military, or we can spy for the Greys, so to speak. But because you're chosen by innate abilities. So sometimes you hear that some abductees say, well, the Greys have given me these abilities. No, they haven't given you those abilities.
Just awakened your abilities.
Because we are divine beings. In essence, we have a soul. We're divine beings. Okay, we're racking up these abilities from lifetime to lifetime through hard work and through experience. So when you come back, I mean, some souls follow a particular line, a bloodline, an ancestral line. So you may have been, for instance, in other lifetimes, involved with the mystery schools, to develop these abilities. You may have been in the military in these past lifetimes. You may have been, involved with witchcraft or sorcery or wizardry.
I actually had that in one of my past life regressions. We got to go to commercial break, Michael. We'll continue this and open up the phone lines to the audience when we come back from the short commercial break.
Sure.
Join this conversation. Ask your questions of our guest tonight, Michael Kameron. He's the author of High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters, and perfect guest for our kind of show to talk about all these weird, strange experiences we call life that a lot of us are having and can't tell people or around you. That's why we do this show. Call in tonight. Share your own experiences with me and Michael and Jamie and Rob. Let's discuss, compare notes, because we got to figure out what's going on. So much more to this reality than any of us could imagine when we come back from the short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID jblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Michael Kameron. He is the author of High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters. We're talking about all of his experiences, how the alien abductee phenomenon, you have psychokinetic experiences, ghost experiences, spiritual experiences, other realms. It goes so much deeper, past lives. And then the MILAB experience, where you have this military element. I want to say our government's military, but some private military force that's out there taking people, using them as, even like he said, astral warriors, sometimes as like super soldiers. We've heard these encounters and stories that seem amazing people, but why? The thing is, we keep having people that are telling these experiences. It's not just one or two. There's a ton out there. I want to know tonight, have you had any paranormal alien experience? Do you believe it's alien and spiritual? it goes beyond just the physical alien abduction, some screen memories. It hits you in a spiritual way. I'd love to hear your stories tonight. Phone lines are now open. Let me open them up so you can call in, join the conversation with our guest, Michael Kameron. Let's go ahead and get back to the show. Thank you for hanging in there with us, Michael. I got to get my share screen up. Rob had to leave for the night, so he won't be sharing. So let me get that up because I know you have some other photos in here tonight. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. Let me see. Hold on. Nope, I keep hitting the wrong button. There it is. Share screen. Entire screen. There we go. All right. Let me hide that for the moment. But let me know later what pictures if there's anything you want to show there, Michael. So the MILAB thing you were mentioning as we were going into commercial break, that they use, you said, as a kind of an astral spy or soldier. Explain, what is that?
Well, it's only, a little while ago that I, from my experiences, again, with the abduction experiences, you have some, in my book, a lot of the experiences in there, they're what I call marker memories. So they're almost burnt into your mind, so you never forget them. But of course, I do explain that there are aspects of that are fragmented. So ones that are hidden in the subconscious mind, whether that's deliberate, I think it's a bit of both. Sometimes it's your own mind protecting you from those experiences, but I also do know that the Greys do deliberately conceal those memories because it allows them to do their insidious abductions, but with the MILAB, I am what would be termed an astral spy. So I will be given a task to go somewhere to do something, to gather information, and then to return that to what would then, I guess, be my controllers. And the thing is, with the abduction programs and the MILAB programs, there is a way out of them, but it's very difficult to get out of them once you're on them. It's a bit like the targeted individuals that are.
Or it reminds me too of people that have been subject to MK Ultra.
Exactly. I mean, this is what I was saying about the borders. When you're outside the body, you don't need a passport to go anywhere. You don't have these checkpoints. So, it's quite easily for somebody who's outside the body to go anywhere in the world. You can do that easily. You can even leave the earth. That's easily.
I mean,
done
our
as
government
well.
believed in it. We funded and researched and had people that were remote viewers.
Yeah, I mean,
and the only reason it was canceled is because Congress found out.
Well, the thing with that's one aspect of it, but the thing with the military is the military don't waste any of their projects or programs. They don't waste any of their assets. We're assets to them. We're property, in a way, and they're not gonna waste that. So Congress is okay, but Congress don't hold the power. They don't hold the power. The people that run these programs hold the power.
Yeah,
Congress
as we're seeing now. I mean,
exactly, but Congress may think they've closed a project down or a program. All they do is they change the name, and they may go to a different location.
Private corporation takes over.
Yeah, the methodology changes. The technology gets much more advanced. The science is much more advanced. So and they're able to conceal these projects and programs quite easily. We've been doing it for so many decades now. So with Congress, they may think they've done that, but I can assure you they haven't. These projects and programs, even Montauk still exists. It's still happening. Anyone that's being involved in that project or program, whether back in the past or presently, they would tell you that this project is still ongoing. It's probably still ongoing in the same location.
At Montauk, New York?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you get a few remote viewers to look at that, they'll tell you that.
I do. I still hear the claims that there's a base underground there at Montauk. That they're still doing experiments. I would think they would move it out. Why would they have to stay there? I don't know. But we do have a call on the line. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. Jamie, Rob, how you all doing?
Rob's gone right now, but we got Michael.
How are you?
Doing pretty good, Michael. So I do have two questions. I'll keep them as short as I can. My first question to you, it goes back to these, I kind of like to call them like the Manchurian candidates, like the sleeper agents.
Okay.
My questions are, how are these individuals selected over to be these sleeper cells? And also, what is or from your own experiences, what are really the triggers that'll activate them?
I will interject there really quick before you get to the last part, though. The sleeper cell thing was my term I used. He did not use the term sleeper cell.
Oh.
No, I definitely understand that. That's really the best way I can describe it. Besides the whole Manchurian candidate, that's what I was thinking of when I was hearing that too. Just like, what would be the trigger that would make these individuals go into active mode?
I mean, for one thing, what I was explaining before, though, is in regards to our innate abilities. When we return here, from reincarnation, we have these abilities, and from what I can tell, the Greys, as an example, and the military that conduct these secret projects, they look for particular lifetimes. They can do that. They can track these lifetimes that we've had. It's almost like going into the Akashic, I believe, records and saying, okay, this person's been in the military, this person's been in the military, in the ancient mystery schools, they're being involved in witchcraft. And so they have these abilities, and they may not even be aware that they have these abilities. And so there was a project called Project Talent, which then allowed for the military to discover, and if people had, if they could do telekinesis. When I was a child, I was able to move objects without touching them, so I was able to do telekinesis. I was tested for this. My parents brought me to some people that I assume were doctors. They had white lab coats on during the 1970s, and I was tested for ESP and and they watched me moving objects. As I explain slightly, briefly in my book, I talk about this. And so they're looking for something within us. They're obviously. The Greys, I would say, are interested in their soul, but they're certainly interested in our psychic and spiritual abilities. And with anything, these can be used for good or bad. And unfortunately, the military that are involved in these projects are using them for themselves to conduct their own, activities. But in regards to being programmed, it's quite deep and technical. But the brain can be, we can be controlled. They have the technology to control the brain, and to a lot of the time, it's in the older days it was to do with LSD, electric shock treatment, hypnosis, or probably what we got now is what's it called? It come back to me in a minute. Sorry, but it's we're able to be programmed, and there are triggers that are able to make us do things that we don't want to do. But the good thing, for them, the good thing about that technology is that it would, if you had, for instance, somebody go into a building and shoot that place up, it would be considered to be a mental illness. They're psychotic. But this goes deeper than that. This technology exists. They're using it, and they're causing a lot of harm. And this is why I was again saying about disclosure. They're not going to disclose that they have these projects.
No.
At best, if they do disclose anything about UAPs, they're not going to tell you the full history of it. They're going to say it's quite modern.
No.
It's quite modern, and we've only just recently discovered it ourselves. And
Yeah,
and
that's the gist we're getting right now. Yeah.
yeah, and but the thing is, people are not stupid, are they? Come on.
No.
Especially in our communities, we hear this all the time, but people are I think are getting much more aware that these, the governments are lying to them. But is there any other question?
Yeah. So my second question is based on your own experiences, how these entities, how they communicate with each other and maybe other humans that were interacting over with them. Did they have a language that was either done verbally or telepathically? Did they use maybe their own language? Could you maybe describe maybe a little bit of what it sounded like? Or were they just speaking just in maybe like general English, depending on who they were interacting with?
Well, from my own experiences, when I did have contacts, certainly with the Nordic types, they were speaking perfect English. There didn't seem to be any accent in regards to their voice. It was almost, some of the time it seemed monotone, almost electronic. Sorry, it's my cat chewing at the back of me. Freya, stop that. Sorry.
Sorry.
So I have heard that other people do hear, a different language from these particular beings. But other than that, even with the Greys, when they've communicated with me, again, there doesn't appear to be anything different from the sounds, and they're not speaking again with the mouths; they're speaking in the head, and sometimes it's just an impression placed upon you in your mind, I guess.
Like visual impressions, like they're not just saying words; they're showing you visuals.
Visuals, yeah, but I do get a lot more of the visuals with the military.
Feelings.
Yeah, the feelings with the military, and I do get a lot of the visuals with the military. I'm pretty sure a lot of the Milabs do. But again, this is just through technology that they're using.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I was thinking about you when he talked about his Nordic thing, because I know you, Zach, had your experience with like a Nordic beating.
I actually had two experiences and I wouldn't really count myself as an abductee. I considered myself more of a contactee because I was actually asking for something like that to happen. So whether I knew it or not, I gave my consent over to it, and I got what I asked for.
How did that feel, Zach?
Well, the first experience, when it initially happened, it was a shock, just because I remember waking up one morning and I was on my right side and my covers were pulled back. I couldn't move, but I could feel like somebody had taken their finger and felt like they pressed like a button over on my lower back, and that's when I started just shaking and vibrating, and I remember just hearing this huge like metallic noise, and I couldn't get any words out. I was just saying, who are you? But I was whispering it, and I felt some tension relief off my neck, and I look over my left shoulder, and I looked up and I could see this tall being with pale skin, long blonde hair with a silver jumpsuit, and this being's eyes, I just remembered it. It was just pure white. There were no pupils in it or anything. And all I could just say was, who are you? Who are you? And initially, first, I was scared because I'm like, I'd never had this kind of encounter before. So when I finally was able to snap out of it, the entity had disappeared. I got control of my faculties. I mean, I was crying because I was just so scared. I was like, this has never happened to me before. And I look back now and I realize, well, I asked for something like this and I got exactly what I wanted. The second one, it was more, I kind of have to describe it as like borderline / professional / casual kind of. It wasn't a scary incident. I actually asked for it because I remember going out in my backyard and and I said, "Hey guys, if you're willing to give me a second chance, would you be willing to send somebody down again to talk to me?" And I saw a bright white flash in the sky, and I went back in. And the following morning, I remember just waking up in this state. It almost felt like a dream. Almost, it was kind of. I guess it's like that mid stage to where just before you wake up, it's kind of a delirious kind of state to it. But I remember I was being my front part, my upper body was being elevated up, and I could see one being that was to my right with long blonde hair, but his face was silhouetted. I couldn't see like his facial features, but I could see that he had a blue jumpsuit. And with my eyes, I can take a look over to my left side. I could see two other beings. I couldn't see their faces, but I could see that they had pale skin. They had 5 fingers, just like any human would, but they had brown jumpsuits.
Okay.
And I remembered I asked, whenever I would ask a question mentally, the being on the right would answer verbally. And his voice was very soft-spoken. And I asked him, I said, "Why can't I move?" Because I had a limited amount of movement. I couldn't move most of my body. And the being on the right said, "You're difficult to handle." I'm like, all right, that's fair. And at one point, I tried to raise my hand up to do like a handshake, and I said, "I'm Zach," and the being said, "We know who you are." All right, okay. And I remembered I asked this being's name, and the being just told me that his name was 92. He gave me a number instead of a typical name, like Michael or Zach or Jason.
Yeah.
That was kind of a surprise for me.
You're doing pretty well with him, eh?
And yeah, it gets a little more interesting. So I said, "Do you know who that being was that visited me last April?" This was in August when this happened. And he said, "I don't know who it is." And for some reason, I got this weird question that came up. I asked him, I said, "May I feel your hair?" And what he did is that he tilted his head, and I was able to take my right finger and I put some of his hair in between my fingers, and it felt like it was straw. So I'm like, well, okay, wow, this is pretty thick for normal hair.
That's a human response, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird now that I look back upon it, but I had to ask. And at one point, eventually, 92, that's what he called himself, he got up and he says, "We have to go now." And what he did is that he started to fade out. Like, he didn't just beam up right away or anything like that. He just started fading out. It was walking away from the bed. And then after him, the other two entities over on the left side followed him. And then I just woke up out of that state. I was fully awake as to what was going on. And that was the last experience that I can remember. And I had to say there was more like professional / casual, just because, I mean, in a professional setting, you don't ask to feel somebody's hair, number one. But
they also don't paralyze you either, but hey.
They don't paralyze me either, exactly. But I mean, I wasn't afraid of it
at that moment, yeah.
But it was more of like just a feeling of, acknowledgement and, letting me ask questions that I didn't get answered at the time. So I never found out just where these beings came from. I don't know if they're extraterrestrial. I don't know if they're interdimensional. All I know is that these were beings that could paralyze a full-grown man, and they could be able to understand me telepathically and be able to verbally respond to me.
But Zach, did you have any other experiences when you were a child? anything that would be in the high strangeness or in this type of phenomena. Because
Where do I begin?
Well, because you've asked for these experiences and you got them, so there's obviously something in your background that's led you to that. So you wanted to do that.
Well, there were two incidences. One I couldn't remember too detailed. The other one was kind of weird. Well, I shouldn't say kind of weird. It was really weird. So the first one happened. I had to be maybe 6 or 7. I remember because my dad was an engineer for a hydroelectric plant out in central Pennsylvania, and I remember that he got a call late one night to come into work, and my mother was a nurse. She was working the night shift, so he had to load all of us up into the family minivan,
Right,
and he
yeah.
just told us to wait out in the car. And I mean, my sister had a more detailed account. She remembers seeing just these bright lights up in the sky, just right above our van. I personally could not remember it. All I remember was just the ride home. That was it. It was just a complete blank, even to this day for me. But the second one, and I will try to keep this as clean as I can. When I was 14, I remember one night I was seeing a bright light, and I could feel like I was falling, and I could see just the night sky around me, but I was falling down, like I was coming back into my body,
Right.
whatever it might be. But I remember landing over on the bed, bouncing off the bed, and I took a look at myself, and I was in a state, like I said, I'll try to keep this as clean as I can, like I just had a pleasurable experience. And I took a look. I had my pajamas on, but my underwear was missing. I never saw that pair of tidy whities ever again. That's probably the other closest experience that I could be able to come close to. So
there's a lot there. No, there's a lot there.
Like I said, I tried to keep it as clean as I could.
I know. I wanted Zach to call in tonight because when you were talking about your experiences, I was thinking about Zach's, who's talked about this on the show before. So I'm glad you called in, Zach.
Yeah, thank you, Zach, for the question.
Yep, and thank you, David. Michael. Thank you very much, Michael, for answering the questions. I greatly appreciate everything that you're saying. Definitely wanted to call in because this will be the last time that I'll be able to call in just on a regular, just until everything gets settled in over with the new adventure that I'm going to be partaking. So I appreciate the time and allowing me to call in, guys. I hope everybody has a great evening, and I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the show.
All right,
Thank you, Zach, for listening.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, Zach.
Good night.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping you'd call in because he's called in. He's been one of our longest callers, and he's told that experience of the meeting like the typical Nordic like beings. So I wanted you to hear that and get your thoughts on that experiences that he's had.
Yeah, he's got quite. I would imagine quite a lot of experiences. That would make a good book. Yeah.
I get people always telling me I need to write a book because of all that. I don't have alien. I don't remember a lot from my childhood of alien abduction experiences or anything like that. I had weird experiences of like seeing like me and my cousin Phil. We were 4 or 5 years old. Saw a green floating head. That terrorized us. Or talking to my unborn sister. Like that my mom miscarried. Weird stuff like that. Having dreams of the future. All the time. Weird stuff like that, that I've had over the years. But the alien stuff, there's memories I have that I've written off as dreams that I've now, after talking to people like you and Terry Lovelace, that make me wonder, like, have I had more than I can remember?
It's quite possible. I think a lot of the time we do have, I'm not saying it's, I like to keep a balance between things, but and as you should, especially if you're doing research or investigations, you got to keep it a little bit level-headed. But I say, how many times do we have, certainly with marks on the body or unusual bruises, but how many times have we gone into our left brain and reasoned it away that it could have been just something normal, when in actual fact, what if it wasn't? What if it is, related to abduction? But then you have to investigate and go back and look at that person's life, and look at the lives of those people around them in their families. If there's,
I remember being a teenager waking up with it looked like somebody took a cigarette and burnt me on my face. My mom was like, "What the heck is that?" I remember waking up and finding this perfectly clear pus. It was perfectly clear. I'm going, "What is this on my face?" And rubbed it away, and there's this burnt circle. And it went away really quick. It healed up really quick. But weird things like that,
I mean, what I was going to speak to you about as well, in your interview with Terry, he spoke about, you showed on the X-ray or the little metal.
Yeah, his X-rays.
Object.
Yeah.
So on the show there was if I can read it out from somebody who was in your chat room when Christina Lantis.
She might be here tonight.
Yeah, she was. I took a photograph of this because I wanted to read it. So it says implant. Obviously speaking to you and Terry, implant look like a chip. The wires are the antenna. Almost looks like it may regenerate its energy. For its energy, it was to track you, Terry. It was placed in either your mouth or nose or other place. So she's wrote that, but I had a similar experience with an object. So,
really?
This was much later on. And I was at the time I was standing in the bathroom in front of the the wash hand basin or the sink, and I was just putting a cloth flannel over my face, and I opened my mouth and this object fell out of my mouth.
What?
Now it had not been there the night before or any other time, and
I had something weird like that. You're freaking me out. I had something weird like that.
And luckily at the time I didn't put the plug hole in, the plug hole into, and so I was able to capture it in the water. Now there was no blood involved.
Yeah.
But it was a perfect. It's very like tiny, very tiny like that object, perfect square though, and I put it. I know you're thinking to yourself, well, how the hell did that?
Was it black?
This one wasn't black, but what it was is I then, I took it and I had a microscope and I looked at it under a microscope, and it had symbols on it, and it had small little wires attached to it. And so eventually, I come across a guy that lived in the area that I was in. He was a well-known ufologist. I think he's passed now. And I contacted him. I called him and said, look, I got this object that's fell out of my mouth.
Yeah,
God knows where it come from. So anyway, he agreed to see me. So I went off and to see him. I went to his house, and he had his office upstairs. So he had a lot going on as well with, I'll tell you in a minute about what that is. And he looked at it. I told him a little bit about myself, that I was an abductee, I had these experiences, and I'm trying to understand them. And he looked at it. He had a much more powerful, microscope. And he said to me, "You're absolutely correct." He said, "It's got symbols on it, and it's got wires on it." And he said, "What? And this fell out your mouth?" And I said, "Shit, yeah, literally fell out of my mouth. It hadn't been there before.
Yeah.
and there'd been no damage inside my mouth." And so he said, his suggestion to me was he would send it off to a friend in the Ministry of Defence. to investigate it. Yeah, exactly. I know where you're going with that. So he said to me, "I'll get back to you." So the weeks went on and on. So then I contacted him, and I said to him, "Did you find anything out about this object?" And he said to me, "Well, I've contacted the person I know in the MOD, and they've been moved, and the object's gone with them." So I didn't get the object back.
You and a lot of people have had that experience.
And I never found out what it was. And but this particular guy, though, when I was walking me out that time, I gave him the object. There was a house opposite, and it was empty. It had some curtains up the top, but it was an empty house, and it was directly facing this house. Was directly facing his house, and his office was basically on that window. And he said to me, "Look up on the top window. What can you see?" And so I was looking at it, and then I realized that there was somebody there, and I could see a red light, like a laser, moving across to where his house is, And he said to me, "That's MI6, and they're basically keeping a watch on me." So he had numerous times he'd been broken into, and the police had turned up,
but yet he's going to hand it over to somebody in the MOD.
But obviously, it's somebody who he trusted with this object. But anyway, he'd had multiple experiences with the military. I think he'd had an experience of his own where he'd seen one of the TR-3Bs, at the time. Yeah, so in the vicinity of where he lived, and I think that was his only one that he'd seen himself. Brad, no, you can't come up here. The
cats always want to join the show.
Yeah.
They do on Jamie's end.
No, Fred, no. Sorry. Stay there. Otherwise, he'll jump on my computer. No, Bubba. Go on, over there, Fred. And so he wants to get in on the act, see, because he's in the book.
Yeah, they always do.
He's in my book. And so, so I never got it back. I never knew what it was, but that's
that's so many people have had this happen where they get an object that comes out of their body and retrieved, and they turn it to somebody in the community that's a researcher or whatever, and then it just disappears, and we don't have it. It's like, I'm not saying this investigator was in on it, but I don't think his idea, given it to somebody who worked in the MOD, a great idea, because I think there definitely is a cover-up. They definitely want to make sure these things don't get out there. I mean, Terry was told with he was getting ready to write his book, and he had a visitation by one of these entities, a female one that he had familiar with since his childhood, who said, "If you write this book, we're going to take that device out of you that they had x-rayed in his leg." And sure enough, he woke up beaten and bruised one morning, and later got an x-ray, and it was gone, and all was left are those two wires. The little square, that perfect square, that whatever, was gone, but the wires were still there. And he was pretty beaten up when they took it. Like, they almost punished him for talking.
Yeah, well, I've got that with my left eye. That's a punishment for me.
Yeah, you talked to me about
Milab.
that. Well, what is that? Can you talk a little bit about that? What's going on with your left eye? I mean, I can see it. I can see it's irritated.
Yeah. I had the same problem decades ago where I had it. I suddenly I was asleep. I woke up. I couldn't see out my left eye. I mean, even the pinpoint of light caused me extreme pain. That it would make me back over and fall to the ground, in pain. Yeah. And then and I wasn't able to open my eye. I went to see a specialist at the London Eye Hospital, a famous hospital in London. I was going there for 6 months. They done everything to my eye. They took it out. They looked in the back of it,
I have a problem with eyes. Like I can't even look in a movie where they do something towards the eye. I can't look. Like, I have a huge phobia.
Sorry about that. But
keep going. It's fine.
And anyway, they done the tests and they couldn't find anything wrong with me, with my eye. Sorry about that.
It's all right. One of my nightmares that involves aliens that I've written off as a nightmare did involve with them sticking something in my eye. But I've seen a billion movies where it frightens the heck out of me, so I've always wrote that off as just my paranoid dream. You know, that I have a problem with eyes that goes back to when I got a ladybug stuck under my eyelid, and my grandparents had to hold me down, and I freaked out. And so I can't say anything with eyes, but I did have one really intense dream once of being abducted and them putting the whole thing in my eye. Like, yeah.
Oh, right. I
That's one
apologize
of
for
them.
that. Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, that's why I'm interested, like, if they can put these things wherever, and I've heard of them putting them in people's eyes. And that really makes my skin crawl.
I mean, where I was at this hospital, though, as well, they flew across a doctor from California to look at me because they'd never seen anything like it. They said to me, we can see that you've got something wrong with you, but there's nothing in our tests over 6 months that could determine what that was. And they were asking me the questions. Obviously, I didn't go into my details of what that I was an abductee.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be very good.
You didn't need any more problems.
No.
Yeah.
But, and so in the end, I left. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. I thought they'd find something and sort that out, but they didn't. Anyway, later on, I discovered that I found 3 other people that are abductees that had the same left eye, the same problem, and under the Milab projects, because now when I'm doing podcasts, I'm speaking out a lot more about my Milab experiences.
Yeah.
Which I've not previously done before. And so now, I've got this same problem with my eye, but a lot of the time when you have anything like this, it's because of directed energy weapons, DEWs. So they target, the CIA call them non-lethal weapons, but that's tongue in cheek because they of course they are lethal. And they target molecules. And so when you go anywhere to a doctor, the doctors are not able to determine what the cause of this is because they're not used to this technology. They don't know it exists. They don't know the effects of this technology, but this technology is used deliberately against individuals, in society. They're used against TIs, targeted individuals. I'm not one of them, but I am a Milab. And Milabs have the same type of techniques, methodologies. The technology is used to punish you when you're speaking out. I've had, voice bots talking to me when I'm in a sleep state. After I've done a show where I've spoken about Milabs, they're talking to me, and you can hear them basically cursing you, threatening you. They're going to kill you. They're going to torture you. And this is something that people
through what?
Sorry,
they're talking to you through what?
Through which is it's like an artificial intelligence device that is able to speak to you. So it's able to play messages to you which are based around threats or violence or that they will kill you. And this is if you research technology to do with this, you'll find it. It's very sophisticated, but a lot of the time, targeted individuals have this that played on a loop, so to speak. And when I done a podcast not long ago, and I was talking about this stuff to do with the military and the Milabs, and they was saying to me, they were swearing, so I'm not going to use the words that he said, but they were threatening me. They said to me about this podcast, you've been talking about this. You're not allowed to talk about this. If you continue to talk about this, you will be hurt, you'll be injured. And I have been tortured as well. Outside of the body, you can be tortured. Because you're in a spirit body, your spirit body can be hurt, it can be injured. And when you return here, the injuries can appear on your physical body. That's another thing that you can look at. But I have had, in my book too, I will talk about some of the tortures I've experienced by these individuals. It's real torture. You can feel it. You experience that pain to the point, where you're,
where you're showing symptoms of it later. You have to have, I know from other abductees that they have problems like for Terry, he would have trouble going out somewhere in the wide open on his own by himself. You know what I'm saying? Like they're, you know, they don't want to go out at night by themselves, or they, you know, certain images will give them, you know, feelings they don't understand, or experiences will give them, you know, feelings that they don't even know where they're coming from, but it's because it's a post-traumatic stress syndrome. Your memories aren't there, but they are.
It's
Your body knows.
Exactly. I mean, last year I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. And you know, this is something I experience on a day-to-day basis, and it's basically, as I say, the trauma that I experienced during childhood through fragmented memories, and what happened in those times of, you know, wherever I went, whatever was done to me. That's where the trauma comes from. You know, you know, in book 2, I go into that much deeper about the trauma and how it affects abductees and Milabs and sometimes other people in the, you know, in the paranormal. But you know, as an example, I used to, you know, when this phenomena followed me and it started to increase, there was times when I slept with a blade in my bed, because if they come to get me, I was going to use it on them to stop
Right.
them from taking me. You know, who wants to be taken and tortured, or to be, you know, I've had sexual attacks that have happened from shadow entities. You know, some of them I can't even talk about at the moment because they were so traumatic. When I was 16, you know, there's something.
I was 17 to 18 when I had my shadow person experience. There's things
Yeah.
I don't tell this audience. I didn't put in the encounter when I wrote it out for Mike Ricksecker's book that I can never talk about.
Exactly. I mean, one of, you know, I've experienced, you know, what would be termed rape and torture, you know, and it's to do with controlling you. And you know, I go into this in much more detail in my second book. And you know, this exists for lots and lots of people in every walk of life. Children go through this. You know, you and Terry were talking about this. Children are abducted, and as I've been told recently, children in the UK, the abduction programs for children in the UK have begun again. They've started up again.
I totally
you know,
can believe that.
Sorry.
I totally can believe that.
Yeah, and you know, it's like you're saying though, it's making, in a way, children aware or parents aware of what their children are telling them. You know, but it's much more difficult when the parents are not familiar with, you know, with high strangeness, or they don't believe it. You know, it's much more difficult.
I mean, well, look at your experiences as a kid. I mean, you could crack. A lot of people would look at that. They watch these ghost hunting shows or watch paranormal shows, and well, it's just ghosts and spirits that my kid can see, and maybe there's something much more to it than that. I mean, well, think about this. Okay, so like you saw these beings in your room, you know, these Nordic beings, and we talked about what's been going down in Peru, where they said these things were cloaked at times. They could seem almost like the Predator, or the Las Vegas case. I don't know if that's real or not, where they seemed like they were in cloak. Who's to say that a lot of what people think is, you know, a haunting, or they feel cold spots or things are moving, that there isn't some kind of cloaked entity in their home, observing their children that they're abducting?
Well, you know, in the Milabs communities, you know, and anyone who studies anything to do with military hardware, you know, they're much more advanced or esoteric type technologies. We know that you know, especially, you know, places like DARPA, you know, I'm pretty sure that they've created, you know, that they're able to fold light around their bodies. You know, and this is this is like the Predator, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
So they understand that type of technology, how to cloak themselves in this type of technology, and I believe you're right there. You know, they could be using this type. I mean, we know that Milabs can enter properties. You know, they could be using this type of technology to enter properties where they want to do a grab and snatch on somebody that, you know, that's on their programs. You know, I was once staying with somebody in. You know, in Wales, in the Brecon Beacons, where they're special, you know, the British SAS train the special forces, and I was actually sleeping on a couch at the time, and I witnessed this, where she was a Milab as well. You know, a family were Freemasons, and very religious, and I saw these, these soldiers coming in, and these were Milabs as well, by the way. A lot of the Milabs used the TR-3Bs as pickup ships. I don't think they're used as much now because it's an older type technology. But at the time when I was at this lady's house and I was sleeping on the couch because I was doing research in the area and she was showing me about, and they come in and they took her. They went up into the bedroom. They brought her down, and just outside there was a TR-3B just in the sky, and she was gone. And then the next day, I don't remember anything after that. I just remember she was back in the house. And she knew she had these, She was aware she was a Milab.
Yeah.
And had these. Can you give me a moment? I just want to let the cat out.
Yeah. We're almost at a commercial break, but it's interesting because he's saying about the TR-3B and the military MILAB. One of the things with Terry Lovelace, if you go back to Incident of the Devil's Den or watch my interviews with him, his is a big triangular ship. I mean, huge, and it also had a hangar inside it with other ships and people, humans in it, and and like I wouldn't say military uniforms, but jumpsuits and stuff like that. So there's something with the TR-3Bs. There's something with the triangular ships over the decades that people have seen that was involved. It might be involved with something that is MILAB human or something.
Yeah,
I was talking about the Terry Lovelace experience with his TR-3B. In a sense, was huge. It was, a massive ship.
I mean, I agree with you, and a lot of other people in the chat room as well. When you were talking about that with Terry, and in regards to, what you said about, him and his friend. Why his friend wanted to go to this area, this very isolated area. Yeah, exactly. But I think it was his friend that was called to it. And again, I believe, like you said, they were both abductees as children. And, they were taken there. This place is remote, isn't it? And so there's nothing for miles.
They're not supposed to even be, they weren't even supposed to be there. It was private.
No, of
property,
course. So, and remember what he said, his friend was able to get to it easily, like he was being led.
I think we got Aziriana. I want to get her call before we go to our last commercial break. Hold on. You on the line, Aziriana? Or who do we have on the line? You're on the phone. Who do we got? Oh, it's because sorry, I can hear you now. I hit the wrong dial. There you go. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hey, Aziriana.
Okay. Good.
We only got a few minutes before commercial break, so hope we got enough time.
Okay. Well, I wanted to just say that I tell Michael there, your guest, that I have another implant, and this time I was like awake and I remembered it, as opposed to the first time I don't remember having one.
But this time you remember them giving it to you?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember because I felt pain when in it, when they did it, and anyway, it's not like, it's kind of like a little tic-tac thing.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. And every time I tried to get it out, because I was very upset because of it, and upset at them, that it moved. And it would heat up to the point that would burn my skin.
Mm. Where's it at on your body? Where's it moving around at?
It is in a spot that I cannot reach it.
Oh, okay.
And I do feel it. I know it's there.
Yeah.
But occasionally it does heat up. And when I talk about stuff, and I've been more public with it lately. So I don't know if they like it or if they're angered that I don't like them putting an implant or whatever at this point, But in essence, I was abducted from the age of 5 to my early 20s. And I think it's generational. I certainly didn't sign up for a contract. and I just don't like it, you know? And I don't know why I have another implant.
Go ahead, Michael. We got 2 minutes before commercial break.
Yeah,
You want to comment on it?
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say to you, who do you feel's putting that into you?
It
Do you
was
think it, do you think it's non-humans, or do you think it's military?
no, non-humans, definitely aliens.
Okay.
The long, tall. You called them Nordics, but they're like, they always wear white. When I see them, I can't see their face or anything, but they're very long. They're very tall, and they always wear white.
You know, I'm really sorry that you've had to go through that and experience that, and you still do. It's a really difficult thing to experience, and much harder to tell anyone about it. I'm really sorry that you've had to go through that.
Thank you.
And Zuriana, before we go, you still have this implant in you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Anybody you could recommend to her to see, or what she should do?
It's possible, isn't it? To I'm sure there's somebody within our communities that will be able to possibly take a look at that. Whether I'm not sure that they will be able to remove it. It all depends
Right.
where it is. It depends on its location. We do know some of these can be removed, and they have been, but there are some places where they can't be removed because
Whitley Strieber had that.
Yeah, it will cause problems. It will cause more problems to you in the attempt to take it out.
Yeah.
But I'm certain, I'm sure we could probably put you in touch with somebody.
I would be grateful for that. I was trying to find the other thing that they had given me many years ago when I was 5 years old, and that's disappeared. I'll never find it.
They gave her an object when she was a child that she had for many years that would glow when they'd come near, and then it disappeared. Zuriana, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good night.
We're going to go to our last commercial break. Guys, you can call in after the commercial break. The phone lines will be back open after this commercial break. Just wait to call in until we come back with our guest, Michael Kameron. He is the author of High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters, when we come back.
Intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I don't want to hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID oojblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest has been Michael Kameron. He is the author of High Strangeness, a lifetime of alien and paranormal encounters. Man, we only got a half hour left of the show. So much I want to get into tonight with Michael and his experiences. I can't wait to read this book. We'll definitely get out where you guys can find it. He's got a digital copy you can get or the hard copy. Phone lines, let me get those back open for anybody else want to call in. Thank you, Azariana, and to Zach for calling in and sharing your experiences. If you've had an experience tonight, Call in, join the last half-hour conversation we got, and tell us about your experience. But let's get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging in there in the wee hours of the morning over in England, Michael. We do got another phone call if you're ready to take one.
Sure.
All right. I think, who do we got on the line here?
Hi, it's Adrian from Connecticut.
Hey, Adrian.
Hi.
Howdy. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I had a question. I've had so many experiences in my life. What really puzzles me is the ones I know that have happened, say, in my house. I remember everything. But when they've been off-planet or in a ship or underground, I only remember the last, let's say, 20 seconds on the average, between 15 and 30 seconds. I can never remember what happened before. Does that mean I was taken astrally and not physically? How can you tell the difference between a physical experience underground on a ship or off planet or astrally?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. You can normally tell when you're obviously moving outside of your body, and we know that the as you said from your experiences, the abductions and you can be taken to the dumb deep underground military bases, and often there's normally two aspects to that. It's you could be having a bit of both. You could be having the physical with the out of body experience as well. But do you feel anything from it when you come back from it? Is there any sensations or any
physical marks?
Yeah. I've had a lot of weird stuff. I've been. The one time I'm pretty sure I was taken physically is because I was on the couch taking a nap, and these huge blankets were completely off me, all the way off my feet, like backwards. So, and it was a bad experience, and that's when I think I was taken off planet. So, and I was totally upset. I was paralyzed when I came back. My heart was racing, and I didn't even really understand anything. There's been other times that were okay. I've met some okay beings, but I've had bruises. When I was younger, my mom, you could see they're like fingerprints. But see, this is difficult because you said if you're attacked and you're in your astral body, these bruises will still show up in your physical. So that makes it even harder to discern. I had one where I had a really strange blue ink tattoo stamp underneath the back of my arm, and I wouldn't have seen it unless I was putting my hair in a ponytail. There's no other way I could see it except in a mirror. It was weird. It was like a circle, some dots, and an arrow. It was really small. It washed off. But where do you get something like that? It's like really weird.
That's quite interesting.
I mean, I've had implants.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, are you saying the blue stamp is interesting?
Yeah,
it's the same color as a meat stamp.
Yeah, I find that quite interesting, the one you just said about, because I've had, I mean, I don't hear many people talk about that, but it's, I've had holographic implants where they can only be seen when you are under a certain light, or you're looking in a certain way at your body where you can see it. So, I've often asked people about the holographic implants, but not many people seem to know much about them. But so the one that you've had it may not be holographic, but it certainly goes along the same lines as seeing it in a certain way to detect it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because the first one I had was in my right ear. That was when I was really young, and when they would activate it a couple times a year, it would freeze me in my tracks. Then that I had 2 years reprieve, then it went into my left ear. I had one removed from my knuckle, and they said they lost it. They don't know what happened to it, and I would never be able to see it. I have one behind my left eye that was removed and then put back in, and then removed again, and then it got put back in again. That was on. That was in 2018.
What would you think? The one in your in your eye. What do you think it was for?
Oh boy. My best guess is so that they can see what I'm doing as I see it.
Okay.
Because it bothers my sinus too. I mean, it really bothers my sinus. It's like you're constantly aware it's there, constantly.
Ugh.
And when it was gone, I knew it. I was like, oh my God, it's gone. I had it removed by a person who can do it through etherically. I don't know. But then it came back.
Yeah, you can have them. You mean from the the electromagnetic field from around your body?
Oh,
because
removed that way. Yeah, I don't know how she did it, but it worked.
You can have healers. Some healers, that specialize in this type of phenomena. They can remove some of the implants that are in your field, but as we were saying before, some of them can be dangerous to remove from your field. But some of them have another thing is some of them are booby trapped, so that a therapist that is trying to these are put in by the military. They are booby trapped. So any therapist that tries to remove them, the therapist will be injured. And if they have psychics and they have gatekeepers, they should be telling them this. But I've encountered a few of these therapists that have tried to remove implants from the etheric field only to be seriously injured, and they never touch them again. So as I said before, we are really property, to some degree. We're property and we're used and controlled in that way. But as I speak about this more and more, I will eventually be moving into a much more positive phrase of helping people to move towards removing ourselves from these programs. They're illegal programs that we're forced to do. People tell us that we chose this, that we have contracts. We do have contracts. When we come back into this lifetime, we have contracts. We agreed to those contracts, but, and there is a big but, they're not the contracts that we have here with the with the Greys or the military. They actually manipulate these contracts and they, in a way, superimpose their own upon our original ones. And this is spoken of outside the body by what you could call spirit guides or ascended masters. They would tell you this. These contracts are not your contracts that you agree to. This is what the Greys often. Exactly. The Greys often tell people when I ask them, why are you doing this? Because you've agreed to it. I can assure you they've not agreed to it. It's illegal and it goes against divine law, natural law.
See, I never understood that when people would say that. It's like, why would anybody agree to that?
They haven't.
Right.
It's a lie.
Jason, they say benevolent beings are not allowed to interfere in human affairs unless it's going to affect their planet or solar system or hurt Earth. But what really confuses me is there's people who have been healed, allegedly, off planet. I've been healed here in my house, but I don't remember ever being taken out of my house or off planet and being healed. So there are benevolent beings out there that'll heal you, but they're not supposed to interfere. So that confuses me.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, though, right? A lot of the activity on the Earth at the moment there is a lot of activity. I know some people might not like to hear this, but there is a lot of activity that is not in the best interests of human beings. Mm-hmm. But having said that, there are, as you said, there are positive beings out there as well. And they do try to help in their own way. But at the moment, they're not in control of this planet. They don't control the narrative here, if you like. But they do. There are.
Right.
But as we go forward, you'll see a lot more of the positive ones and they will interact a lot more with people, and even interact with people that are not even involved in this phenomena. But like you said, with natural law, that's very, very, true what you said. And you got to look at how, the different species interact with you. If they come in and they're getting you to drive to an isolated place, they're forcibly removing you from your vehicle, whether physically or through out-of-body experiences, through the windscreen. And
Either way,
into
it's a
ship.
violation.
Exactly, it's a violation. Natural law prohibits any, sentient higher being from doing that. And you wouldn't want to do it. The more positive you are, the less like you want to hurt people. You want to do anything bad. You want to help people. You want to empower people. You want to do good to help people, But like with the Greys, they come in the middle of the night, often isolated places. They target you in these ways. And, that obviously goes against natural law. If you had somebody positive, they'd come to you, appear to you and say, hello, there'd be, a gentleman about it. And they don't do that, again, with with the military as well. The military are coming in, they're forcing themselves upon you. They're doing all these experimentations. They're using technology. They test technology on the public. This is with the targeted individuals. They're just, and a lot of the targeted individuals always ask, why have they chosen us? A lot of the time, it's not because it's personal. It's because they're just randomly picking you off the street. As scary as it sounds, but it's almost like a lottery, that person there. And they test this technology out on you. But other times, it's more deliberate because maybe you've upset somebody.
Yeah, I mean, history backs up. I mean, we have the Freedom of Information Act. I know the CIA would lure people in and give them LSD, see if it'd make them tell the truth. I was experimenting on citizens.
I mean, like you were saying though, as well about the screen memories. A good example is that is with children. So we know that they take images from your mind and then replicate them in a way through virtual reality. And often with children, they may take an image of a cartoon out of that child's head.
There must be some
lure them into, say, a forest, and then they'll see what is a tree. The tree opens up, their child goes in, and it's obviously a ship. And that's one way, like you talking about.
That wasn't taken.
Clown. Yeah,
it was a chipmunk.
Oh, was it right? But with the like you were saying with the clowns. There's obviously something in that as well, isn't there? When people hear this music, well, they see the clowns, and and why, I'm pretty sure
might be why people have fear of clowns.
It may well be. I'm not particularly that fond of clowns myself. But
well, there must be something very special about us because, other than for their own entertainment purposes, they're sure putting a whole lot of trouble into messing with us in so many different ways. So we must be pretty unique beings.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my own perspective, from my own understanding for myself, not no one else, when I'm taken as an abductee, I don't consider myself to be special or chosen, simply because, I don't consider myself that. I consider myself just...
No, I'm saying as a human species, because they have...
Yeah, I know
as a human species, because they have Greys that can do their stuff. But there must be something unique about humans that they want to keep messing with us because Greys won't fill the bill.
The Greys
for whatever they want to do.
Because we're divine beings. The human being has the potential to be immortal. We can live forever.
The ultimate scary thought is their ultimate interest isn't the body or what they're doing in the world, but our soul. And that would get back to people. They're demons. No, I'm not saying that. But there's an interest in the ultimate human spirit or what we are deep down that they have an interest in.
I mean, years or decades ago, I worked for a military contractor in London. And later on, I discovered that this particular military contractor, they actually supplied the infamous cameo dudes at Area 51. But in Area 51 as well, as I was talking to a Milab the other day, and I was like saying, when I went there once outside of the body, and when I entered the base, I was trapped inside a containment chamber. Containment chambers inside the base are basically used to capture anyone who's in there to spy. So remote viewers can be captured in these chambers, and inside the chambers, the etheric, or the spirit self or astral self, it is
I have an idea.
It's actually interrogated and then tortured.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Maybe they want our soul because they sold theirs.
Possibly. It's always good to explore different ideas and and research this stuff.
All right, well, I'm going to let you go in case someone else wants to call in and
Yeah,
talk
we're almost
before
out of
the
time.
night's over.
This time goes by so
Okay.
quick. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Hey, thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, but
I want to say a real quick shout out to Nancy for your $10 donation. Super Chat people, you can donate and help support the show on Super Chat, YouTube. You can donate there. You can donate on Patreon, $2 a month, $5 a month, one-time donation, whatever you want to do to help pay for the bills of the show. It's a big thank you, Nancy, and to everybody else who does support. One thing, I don't know if you've seen, I keep thinking about she talked about her left eye and your left eye. Have you seen the whole black eye conspiracy thing with celebrities?
No,
Like
what's
these celebrities pop up with like a black eye suddenly, like whatever, and everybody talks about the left black eye that they get, or some like their eyes puffy, or something like they've been indoctrinated, or they've been taken over by the invasion of the body snatchers. I don't know. It's one of those internet conspiracy theories that they show all these different celebrities with the black eye. It's the left eye. I'm like, maybe they're all being abducted.
No, I've not seen that. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if some of them.
The other thing I
are,
was thinking about, you guys are talking about, something me and my wife were just talking about today. She goes, have you seen this conspiracy theory? And it was Dr. Jane Ruby, I think it was, whatever. She had a guy on talking about how all those new street lights that they like in our town, they told us they got these like they're purple, like UV lights in the street lights.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, it was an accidental order of light bulbs. But it's like all over the world. It's in the UK. It's here. It's in all these different countries. They just got some huge accidental order of these UV lights. And this guy was saying that it's actually, and they're all where cameras are at, that they're using the light to be able to use these special cameras to see if they've gene spliced us correctly, or they've been a new gene splice has come through, because it can come through the skin, and a pigmentation can be seen with this light with a special camera. And that they're doing this in high traffic volume areas with these lights to see the population, how many have shown they've gotten this gene splice. My wife did just today, where she was showing me this theory. I'm like, one more for the bag of theories, out there. But I've always suspected, like, when those lights first got in, me and my wife were like, you accidentally got the wrong order of light bulbs. Bull. Something's up with those lights, So that was one guy's explanation for it. I don't know if you've seen anything about that, but I was thinking about that when you guys are talking about, what they're doing to track us or see us, or what they could show, like the holographic markers in this, in the auroric field, or even, holographic implants, whatever, that these lights are up there and they're tracking us to see if they're gene spliced. That's right.
Well, you know what though, the interesting thing is that they're using all this technology against us, basically, which is the more modern types of technology. If you're using technology that goes back to the 80s, they can't track you with that type of technology. So people that live off the land and away from this tech, they're pretty much safe. So all the types of technology that we are, that we're in a way that we're forced to use to some degree, a lot of the time it does interact with us.
Yeah, try to be a person without a smartphone. I did that for a long time until I finally gave in.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm addicted to this damn thing, but it tracks, it hears me. I know it hears me because I say something and then I get an ad for it on Facebook or wherever, or Amazon.
Yeah, everyone, we all get that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's you just have to say one word and it suddenly comes up. What's the chances of that?
Right. Oh,
so it obviously understands you.
Yeah, when people scoff at the people like you for years talking about that we're being tracked, or that they're listening, or the TI people out there that have said that, but the technology, we're freely giving it away. We freely are giving our information away. We're freely putting the surveillance devices in our homes and are on us at 24/7. It's already there.
It is there, yeah. It's there. And it's going to get, as the technology changes and more modern technology appears in society, I mean, we got the breadcrumbs, but it's still advanced technology.
Yeah, I think about that every time they talk about climate change and fossil fuels. I'm like, yeah, but if it's true with the technology they got in the deep dark programs of their, of these alien projects, they probably have free energy. They probably could revolutionize the world and feed millions of people.
Well, this is the thing, again, the choices, but unfortunately, these type of psychopaths that are running these projects, they're only interested in themselves. They're not interested in helping anyone else. They've got their own agendas, and most of the time it's just, militarized, it's the military controlling it. But imagine what you could do with it if you brought it into society, you could help so many people, in so many ways. We could change and revolutionize our societies, make them better medical care, better treatments for people, different ways to use, travel, everything, And
I mean, even in a non-conspiracy, totally documented way, we spent $8 trillion on wars that have gotten us nowhere. If we had just kept that money and not done those wars, and if that used that money to help people in our own countries, especially here, in the U.S., we spent $8 trillion on wars in the last 15, 20 years. How much that could help people. Well, imagine what they're spending on the black budgets that you don't know about. When 9/11 happened, there was $1.3 trillion not accounted for that nobody ever gave a crap about again after 9/11. I'm saying, like, there's all this money. It's always the money. It's always about the money for the people, the humans involved, at least.
Yeah, I remember the 9/11 when after when the buildings had collapsed and stuff, and they were searching for people. I come into contact with a woman who she was a remote viewer for the NSA, but for the Australian NSA, and I was training under her as a remote viewer at the time. She told me that she was called in to the to the 9/11 site to trace bodies or trace people that have been trapped. So when the fire brigade went there, they were using sophisticated technology, but at the moment she arrived on the site, she was able to locate some of these people, but unfortunately, they were closer to death, really. But she was brought in by some of the families, but she was active at the time in the Australian NSA. Can you? I was going to ask you. Can you? I didn't catch it with Terry. He was talking about the blue lights or blue phenomena that he had on your show.
Trying to remember. I had another guest that had the blue orb. Alta and Chad Dillard. Yeah, they had Abducted was their novel. They were taken in Louisiana by a blue orb that was really like a ship. It was just a big blue orb, but inside it was like a ship and a being inside. I'm trying to remember Terry. Well, Terry.
I think he did talk about a light. I just can't remember it.
Yeah,
in my head.
We've had him on now 4 times. So much we've talked about, and I've talked to him personally about stuff, and there's stuff we've not talked about on this show, too.
Because I had two of the occurrences with the blue as well, which in some of the photographs.
Yeah, I do have those. We're gonna shoot. We forgot all about that, and I have that share screen up there. Before we go, you had some interesting stuff here. Let me pull up my folder of your stuff. Like, what is
9,
it?
10, 11. Have you got 9, 10, and 11 there?
See, I renamed them. I shouldn't have done that. I put them in like the order I thought I have. Why is this not? Wait, hold on. Let me get the wrong folder. There we go. Because I saw something like this one. I thought was interesting here. Was this your artwork?
No. This is Jason Gleaves. Do you know Jason from the UK?
No.
He's an author and investigative researcher, and also a brilliant
artist, and
also he makes models of various types of from sci-fi to to greys. He's brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And he done these sketches for me. That was taken from obviously inside my book, this is one where I see the military involved.
There's the
in
wands.
in the abduction with me. Yeah, this one has caused me a lot of trauma really over time because
Yeah.
of what was done to me. But if you go to one of the others,
What am I looking for? What does it kind of
that
look
one
like?
there, that one. Yeah, so this is the Glastonbury tour, St. Michael's Church,
Yeah.
that I told you about. And in this spot here, where I'm looking here, where the circular platform is,
Yeah.
I actually went there at one time in the night time, and with another Milab that I've been involved with, who's another operative, military, almost like a super soldier type.
Yeah.
I carried out what is called a gatewalking ritual, which is basically to open up a portal in that area, an active portal in that area, but to not to allow anything through it, but to actually to assist in helping and healing the land. So on this particular night when I'd done this and we finished it, then I went in to the arches. You see the doorway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you bring up one of the other ones as well, if you can,
the inside of it.
Yeah. So that's what it would look like. That's a day view of it, of course. But when you look up, but when I'd done this and I'd gone inside and sat inside on the stone bench in there, it was then that a blue light appeared in the sky. My friend was outside.
Oh, the blue light. The blue light. Of course, duh. Terry Lovelace, the light that came down from the ship, the kind of laser beam kind of thing. Okay, yeah.
I didn't hear that. See, but
yeah.
But on this particular one, my friend was outside, and the blue light basically come up over the tower, and sorry, let me just come up over the tower. And if you put the other one back on, if you can, please, that one. So where you can see where the arrow is, it went up. Mm-hmm. I didn't see where it come from, but my friend said it just appeared after we'd done this gatewalking ritual, and then it shot up into the sky just above this tower. It flew around the tower, and he said that it was like just a ship of some sort of ship, but it was just a brilliant blue light, and it flew around and it flew over the top of it, and I was just like looking at it and think, God, where did this come from? And the only thing I can come up with is obviously something to do with the ritual that we conducted that night. But he see it as well. And there was another time where I was traveling home from work at a time. It's in September, and I was coming home from work, and I thought to myself, you had one of those times when you think, I won't get off. I was on a train. I won't get off the train. I'll go on a few stops to where my friend is, who is, the same person. And I just wanted to go and see him, not for any reason whatsoever. Yeah. So I come out the station and I'm going down what is, as Elm Park, what would have been an underground station. And then I walked into Maylands Avenue, this road, which was like a cul-de-sac. My friend lived on another road.
Real quick, because we're already past the time of the end of the show.
Sorry. So anyway, when I was there and I looked up in the sky through some houses, I saw a fleet of orange ships literally traveling over. There must have been about 20 of them. There was loads of cars that stopped, loads of people getting out of their cars, looking up. I was even close to this woman. She called the police. She was frightened. Yeah. And they were literally huge. So, they were, one of them must have been the size of 4 football pitches. And they were moving over the rooftops. They were silent as anything, no sound. The point is, I wasn't going to my friend. Was I meant to see that?
Right.
But then when I told my friend about it, he saw as I got to his door, these were moving off in one direction, and he saw the back of them. But then I said to him afterwards that we got to go somewhere. And we went to this park. And as we went to this park, I said, we got to wait. Something's going to happen. And when I said that, from behind the bushes, this blue orb, brilliant blue orb, rose up, flew around us and flew off. And, you know, that must have been something to do with that, what we see.
Can I ask a question? Was that in 2009?
I don't know. I'd have to check back. I can let you know. But it was in a 2000 period.
Well,
You know?
we see, like I said, time goes by so fast in the show. We'll have to get you back on again,
That's
Michael.
interesting why you said that.
Yeah. We have to get you back on. There's so much more to talk about, and we always run out of time on this. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And like I said,
Thank
when your second book comes out, let me know too. We'll get you back on the show. We got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it for you having me on, and for everyone listening.
Thank you guys for watching tonight. Definitely check out his book, High Strangeness, A Lifetime of Alien and Paranormal Encounters by Michael Kameron. Thank you, Michael, again for being on the show. Thank you to Nancy for your $10 donations on Super Chat. Don't forget, you can always donate on Super Chat, YouTube, or go to our Patreon under Jason Bland Paranormal Soup. Donate $2 a month, $5 a month, or a one-time donation. Helps pay the bills for the show. It means a lot. And thank you to everybody who shares out the show. Keep telling your friends about Paranormal Soup, where the weird happens live every Sunday night. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.